Chapter 1583. Hiss! In the air, water vapor filled the air. The two energies collided in the air and exploded. The violent explosion filled the world with flying energy threads. Who is it? The two cultivators looked at Su-yi in horror. The young man in front of them was about 17 or 18 years old. He actually blocked their attacks. Su-yi looked angry. He cupped his hands and said softly to the young man, "The Infinity sect is very powerful. You won't fight with a kid, right? If you're really talented, why are you in such a hurry?" Looking at the majestic Su-yi with his fluttering robe, the young man pondered for a while. Then, he waved his fan and said angrily, "Okay. Let's see what you can do." "Achu, go ahead. I believe you can do it." Su-yi had once probed Achu's soul quality with the heavenly origin demon soul. It was extraordinary to be able to withstand the spiritual liquid's energy with such strong perseverance. "Okay, Brother Su." Achu nodded heavily. He glanced at the young man in the brocade robe and walked up casually. "Hey!" When the old man was about to stop Achu, Su-yi and the young man in the brocade robe glared at him at the same time. The old man's eyes flickered and he stopped talking. There was a look of surprise in Achu's eyes. She placed her hands on the top-grade soul-testing crystal, and a 5-colored divine light shot up into the sky like a dragon. Immediately, the world was filled with the roar of a fierce beast. Roar! The dragon's roar shook the sky. The golden light was dazzling. Su-yi smiled and thought, the quality of Achu's soul is indeed amazing. The Li family's attainments in the soul will definitely make the heavenly palace look at them with new eyes. This trip to Yunzhou is really worth it. The monstrous waves mixed with the gathering dark clouds. Suddenly, the entire void was extremely dark. The wind and thunder were sonorous, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Strange phenomenon! This kid actually has such a level of soul. The onlookers were all dumbfounded. Their eyes were fixed on the strange phenomenon in the sky, not daring to move half a millimeter, and not daring to breathe loudly. Chi! After a period of time, the entire world suddenly cleared up. The dark clouds dispersed, and the light of the top-grade soul-measuring origin crystal flickered indeterminately and pulsed abnormally violently. Achu's expression changed slightly. She wanted to use her soul power to suppress it, but she seemed to have suffered an even more terrifying rebound force. Large beads of sweat gradually dripped down from her chin. "Something is wrong." Su-yi frowned. He walked to Achu and looked at her with concern. "Chu, what's wrong?" Chu, who was fully infused, frowned and did not answer. Su-yi immediately activated the heavenly origin ancient scripture. Like a gust of wind, a soul energy that seemed to have transcended the heavens and earth immediately enveloped Achu's body. There's actually another soul energy suppressing Chu's soul energy. It's extremely powerful. Su-yi frowned. Ha! Immediately, Su-yi activated the primordial origin supreme art. It was as if he had broken through a bottleneck. His primordial chi surged like a 1,000-year-old mountain, crushing that wave of energy. Bang! The energy around her body swept out and shattered the space ripples. Achu immediately felt a lot more relaxed. With a roar, her soul energy was like a water pump, directly dispersing the entire dark clouds. The dark clouds that filled the sky suddenly dispersed, and the scattered golden light was incomparably dazzling. A pillar of light soared into the sky, and above the dense void, there was a sudden rumbling sound. The 7-colored light finally reached the purple light. When it landed on the purple horizontal bar, it emitted an extremely dazzling light. A boundless aura suddenly spread out. Seeing the dense fog that covered the sky and the light dissipating in an instant and the space flickering, everyone, including the old man, was stunned. Then they burst into extremely shocked cries. "Heaven-grade soul!" It stopped at the purple bar. "It's a heaven-grade soul. How old is he?" "Genius! Another genius has appeared." The onlookers' eyes were full of shock, and they shouted in a low voice. Who would have thought that the soul quality of a 12-year-old boy would be so excellent? Everyone's reaction also made Achu proud. She made a face at Li Shiran from afar, indicating that Li Shiran should also take the test. I don't know what method this old man used. I reckon this soul-measuring crystal is his true Tao artifact. It can suppress souls. The 7-colored celestial crystal is just a smoke screen. Su Yi's eyes gleamed coldly. When he looked at the old man again, his face was half green. He stared at the soul-testing crystal in a daze, and his eyes flickered. Old man, give us your Taoist artifact. Looking at the Taoist artifact in his hand, the old man's face was gloomy and bright. He said shyly, even if I give you this Taoist artifact, it won't recognize you as its master. It's a free gift. Suddenly, the people behind him jeered. What? Are you trying to renege on your debt? Didn't you say you'd test the soul and give us a Taoist artifact? Liar. Su Yi immediately raised his eyebrows and walked towards the old man with a smile. At this time, the young man in brocade waved the folding fan in his hand. But wait! Su Yi squinted and saw the young man in brocade saying coldly to the old man, if he can have a heaven-grade soul, I can have a heaven-grade soul too. Let me take the test too. Boom. With a turn in the air, the young man in brocade passed through the crowd and flashed to the soul-testing crystal. He exerted a little force, and another strange phenomenon occurred. Wow! Is it another heaven-grade soul? What's going on? Are heaven-grade souls cabbages? Are they everywhere? All the onlookers were in high spirits again. Obviously, this was no longer a matter of who had the Taoist artifact. The young man in brocade was going against Su Yi. Say it. What should we do? The young man in brocade frowned with a trace of slyness and complacency in his eyes as he spoke while swaying. Su Yi was not in a hurry. He walked to the soul-testing crystal and clenched his fist slightly. The Origin Supreme technique was immediately unleashed. An explosive aura shrouded the crystal like a sponge absorbing the energy. The soul-testing crystal instantly turned into a pile of ordinary stones and revealed its original appearance. It was actually a pocket-sized 7-colored pagoda. What? It's actually a fake. Everyone immediately reacted and looked at the old man furiously. They saw the old man throwing the fake pagoda to the young man in brocade. Bang! The pagoda exploded like a bomb. The surrounding space where it was standing was invisibly scorching hot. The fire attribute energy immediately gathered. Before the Origin Emperor experts could reach him, the young man in brocade's expression changed abruptly. A water attribute energy rose from his feet, and a whirlpool tore the entire pagoda apart. Her long black hair was incomparably smooth, like a waterfall hanging upside down in front of her chest. Above her creamy skin, it revealed her perfectly round buttocks and incomparably delicate little face. Her face was bright and beautiful, and her facial structure was not quite the same as that of the central continent. It gave her a different kind of charm and was extremely charming. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1584. So it's a little girl. Pretty good disguise. Su Yi chuckled. The girl in embroidered robe panicked as she looked down and saw a ball of fire attribute light rush out behind her. She screamed at the powerhouses who rushed over to protect her. You guys go chase. That swindler ran away. The two attendants looked up at the swindler, but there was no trace of the swindler. There was only a deep hole left on the ground, and the ground that had been dug up extended all the way. He escaped by burrowing into the ground. He's really a rat. Catch that kid for me. Don't let that old swindler go either. The girl in embroidered robe was flustered and exasperated as she pointed at the flame afterimage left behind by Su Yi. Swoosh! The powerhouse was like the wind as he fled like lightning, leaving behind a faint afterimage. Everyone was stunned. It turned out that the old man was an old swindler, and Su-yi and the girl in embroidered robe already knew about it. They felt that their intelligence had been severely insulted and immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Only Li Shiran, Situ Muyang, Achu, and the girl in embroidered robe were left in the open space. The girl in embroidered robe said to Achu, "Little brother, your soul talent is very powerful. You even stole my limelight. What are you trying to do?" Situ Muyang's wind attribute origin energy erupted out and followed Su-yi all the way. With the assistance of spirit liquid, his cultivation at the third level of the origin void stage that was close to the fourth level of the origin void stage exploded out like a sword, and he glared fiercely at the young woman in embroidered robes. "You guys really? I'm here to expose this swindler. Why do you have to steal my limelight?" The girl in embroidered robe rebuked. It turned out that this girl in embroidered robe wasn't here to denounce them. The three of them immediately let out a sigh of relief. Situ Muyang was also from a large sect and did not lose in temperament at all. "I'm Situ Muyang. What's your name?" Situ Muyang took the initiative to resolve the awkwardness. The girl in embroidered robe's eyes curved as she tidied up her appearance and said to the three of them, "I'm Han Yuro. Immeasurable sex. Immeasurable sex direct disciple. Hello. Let's be friends?" Seeing that Han Yuro had no intention of making things difficult for them, the three of them immediately changed their attitudes and bowed with smiles. Then Han Yuro said, "Judging from your attire, you don't look like locals. Where are you from?" Situ Muyang looked at the man in front of him, who was in his early 20s but was already a half-step primitive emperor. Such talent was definitely important in the limitless sect. "We're from the Central State. Your talent is pretty good," Situ Muyang praised sincerely. This won't do. When I was your age, I might not even be able to compare to you. What are you all doing in the Central State?" Han Yuro tore off all her disguises, revealing her extremely beautiful face. Her delicate face was like a blooming lotus, which was very compatible with the geography of the cloud state. Hearing this, the eyes of the three of them lit up. There were millions of women in the world, but there were very few who could be so enchanting and graceful without the slightest pretentiousness. The hostility in their hearts just now vanished completely because of a smile that was just like a spring day. In fact, everyone knew the talent of the two of them. Situ Muyang was around 14 or 15 years old and was already at the fourth level of the origin void stage. Han Yuro was in her early 20s and was already a half-step primitive emperor. Other than the difference in age, the strength of the two of them was not to be outdone. Moreover, compared to the limitless sect, Situ Muyang still had an extremely terrifying sect backing him. That was why Situ Muyang was able to walk freely in the world without any scruples. Han Yuro removed her disguise and relaxed. She exclaimed in a carefree manner and smiled at the three of them, appearing rather forthright. "You're new here, so you're not familiar with the cloud state, right? Let's go. I'll bring you all to eat something delicious." Han Yuro acted like a big sister, which made the three of them laugh in their hearts. After saying that, Han Yuro brought Situ Muyang and the others to a place called the First Grade Heaven Pavilion. They were all cultivators, so they ate the same food. When the dishes were served, many of the delicacies were made from the meat of the local barbaric demon beast. Not only were they delicious, but they were also extremely effective. Han Yuro asked about their basic situation and casually asked, "Is the fellow who stood up for you from the central province as well?" When Ah Chu saw Han Yuro mention Su-yi, a surge of excitement rose in her heart. She picked up a piece of barbaric demon beast meat and said proudly, Yes, my big brother Su is amazing. Cough cough. Subsequently, Situ Muyang and Li Shiran both coughed. Although they already knew that Han Yuro did not have any ill intentions, they still had to be cautious. It was best not to let others know Su Yi's name if they could. Chu immediately lowered her head and did not speak anymore. Han Yuro muttered in her heart, "Big Brother Su? Miss Han, the two experts you sent won't have a dispute with Big Brother Su again, right?" Li Shiran saw that Su Yi had not returned for a long time and was a little worried. Han Yuro frowned slightly and said softly, "Qin Lang and Qin who are my trusted aides, so they won't act recklessly. We have a conflict because we want to expose the swindler. Your big brother Su won't be so unreasonable, right?" Boom. Suddenly, a burst of fire attribute energy rushed into the first-grade heaven pavilion like a sea of fire. The cultivators present all looked sideways and saw a figure at the door flashing between the three of them like a flaming butterfly. "Big Brother Su!" the three of them exclaimed in surprise. "He's quite handsome, and his cultivation has actually reached the 4th level of the Origin's sovereign realm." Han Yuro's heart was in a perilous situation. Her mouth was slightly open, but she could not say anything. When Qin Lang and Qin who were about to rush in, Han Yuro waved her hand and asked them not to follow in. She then stood guard outside the door. Situ Muyang immediately approached and said to Su Yi, "Junior Marshal Uncle, you caught him?" Su Yi nodded and said softly. He originally wanted to find some clues about the headquarters of the Imperial Heaven Palace from the old swindler, but he didn't expect him to be a complete swindler, so he let him go. "You guys also want to go to the Imperial Heaven Palace?" Han Yuro interrupted. A cold light flashed in Su Yi's eyes. He didn't have a good impression of Han Yuro. He didn't answer and let the three of them pack up before continuing to search. When he first entered the Ceiling Cloud County, Su Yi felt that something was wrong with his whole body. His heart and soul trembled violently. According to the route of the Imperial Heaven Palace's headquarters in a remote alley in Central Continent City, the teleportation point of the Imperial Heaven Palace must be here without a doubt. "Let's go." Su Yi looked at the three of them and said. Suddenly, a biting cold murderous aura shot over from high up in the air. Han Yuro frowned and asked seriously, "What about you guys? Are you guys also going to the Imperial Heaven Palace?" The three of them glanced at Su Yi and didn't have the intention to speak. Li Shiran mediated and said softly, "This is a serious matter. I hope Miss can forgive us. Our meeting is fate. I hope we will have the chance to meet again in the future." As soon as her voice fell, the four of them quickly walked out of the first-grade Heaven Pavilion, leaving Han Yuro alone in the same place. Fate? Then we might have an ill-fated relationship. Han Yuro sneered softly. Chapter 1585. When Su Yi and Situmuyang came out from first-grade Heaven Pavilion, the sky was still bright. Su Yi looked around. On both sides of the street were noisy shouts, cultivators, and refiners. Strangely, there was still no reaction from the badge. Slightly frowning, Situ Muyang told Su Yi about the situation just now. Su Yi said softly, "I already know this. If it wasn't for this, those two experts from Infinite Gate wouldn't have been able to come back. We're only going to Heavenly Palace. Try not to make enemies." Infinite Gate was the strongest power in Cloud Province. It also had deep accumulations. Like Sacred Mountain, it was an extremely terrifying behemoth. Heavenly Palace was aloof and isolated from the outside world. Infinite Gate was also the strongest power. A mountain couldn't hold two tigers. The surface of peace still couldn't hide the ups and downs under the surface. Hearing this, Situ Muyang nodded. Looking at the hurried figures on the street, he asked, "Then where should we go now?" Situ Muyang scratched his ear and asked. Currently, Suoyun Province was neither big nor small. Su Yi didn't have any good ideas. If it wasn't for Merciless West, he wouldn't have known that the Unremarkable House was the Central Province branch of Heavenly Palace. However, a bad premonition gradually surged in Su Yi's heart. Heavenly Palace didn't come to pick up the badge holder. This was extremely unusual for Heavenly Palace, which had always been extremely powerful and had the means to reach the heavens. There were two possibilities. First, Heavenly Palace knew he was coming and purposely made things difficult for him. Second, something happened in Heavenly Palace. The Su family was still in the main palace of Heavenly Palace. Hopefully, nothing bad happened. Su Yi's brows gradually filled with frost. He was secretly anxious. Thinking about it carefully, the old swindler wasn't completely clueless. According to the old swindler, he was also an alchemist and had some relationship with the Heavenly Palace. The pagoda hidden in the best quality soul-testing crystal was a gift from an old friend of the Heavenly Palace. Originally, he did not have any great ability. Now that he was old, he did not have any source of soul-measuring crystals for cultivation. Thus, he thought of this method and was willing to use the pagoda in exchange for his life. He hoped that Su Yi would not blame him. The treasures of Imperial Command Palace were extremely popular in the entire 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. If any artificer who couldn't enter Imperial Command Palace could obtain a pill or a weapon from Imperial Command Palace, it would be a great honor for them. It would be enough to comfort them for the rest of their lives, and it would be a lifetime medal. That pagoda is indeed not bad. The 7-colored exquisite mystic origin Rui Pagoda is able to suppress soul energy and has a certain ability to restrict those below the primitive Emperor realm. It was simply the best aid in a battle against a soul controller. Mu Yang, where's the Rui Pagoda? Su Yi asked. Just now, he was in a hurry to catch the old swindler, so he didn't pay attention to the whereabouts of the pagoda. Situ Muyang pointed at his own spatial bag and said softly, "Hee, it's here. I saw that no one was paying attention to it, so I kept it." Su Yi smiled faintly as a plan emerged in his mind. He said to the 3 of them, "All right, let's go. Let's go take a look around. This Seal Cloud County is filled with experts. If Imperial Command Palace doesn't come looking for us, we'll go and catch them." Inside first-grade Heaven Pavilion, Han Yuro's eyes were cold. Qin Lang and Qin Hu stood at the side and said respectfully, "Young miss, what should we do next? Sect Master didn't tell us the location of Imperial Command Palace. Coming out without permission is not allowed." "Duh. Han Yuro tapped her chin and said, "That Su guy, how could he let you guys go? That brat's methods are very tough. We also don't want to create unnecessary trouble. After all, young miss came out without permission. We'll just say that we're disciples of Limitless Sect and that we're also here to catch swindlers. We didn't want to provoke him," Qin Hu said in a muffled voice. "And that brat is quite strange. We'll have to investigate him later. However, the Imperial Command Palace's headquarters has always been a threat to our Limitless Sect. Father doesn't want to provoke them, but I won't. I'll go and show them who's boss." Qin Lang and Qin Hu agreed with Han Yuro and continued. "Then young miss, what should we do next? It's not that easy to find the Imperial Command Palace's headquarters. That Su guy will definitely find it. Just follow them." "You guys don't have to follow me. I'll contact you when I need you." "Yes." Whoosh whoosh. 2 wind-breaking sounds could be heard. Like an afterimage, Han Yuro's figure disappeared into thin air. She changed into a set of female clothes and walked out of first-grade Heaven Pavilion. Around the corner, in a certain plaza. Come. Everyone, if you have good eyesight, don't miss this." A slightly plump merchant stood on a high platform and constantly spoke to the people coming and going. He waved his hands to attract people to come and watch. "Today, our Wind Crane Refining Alliance will pass by here and visit all the mountains and rivers in the Cloud region. We're here to bring everyone the best heavenly treasures for cultivation. Regardless of whether you're a novice or a great expert, there will definitely be something you want here. The Wind Crane Refining Alliance is the best choice for home and traveling. There are also elixirs and weapons refined by our alliance. Everyone, come and take a look. If you have good things in your hands, we also support you in taking them back." The plump merchant's voice was extremely vigorous. His voice was like the sound of gongs and drums. Once his voice spread out, it immediately attracted a large group of people. This ceiling cloud region is simply a large-scale auction house. You can do business anywhere and anytime. Li Shiran and Ah Chu were slightly moved. The cloud region was truly a paradise for refiners. Young Marshal Granduncle, do you think the Imperial Command Palace's people are hiding here? Situ Muyang asked. The badge in Su Yi's chest suddenly flashed with a bit of light. He immediately became ecstatic and said, "They must be hiding here. It's just that they have suppressed their souls so well that they can't be seen in the crowd. The people from the Imperial Command Palace are all arrogant and aloof. Go and provoke them. I guarantee it will be useful." Situ Muyang's mouth curved into a sly smile. He slowly nodded and walked forward. He then loudly said to the plump merchant, "Boss, do you accept the items from the Imperial Command Palace?" "What? The items from the Imperial Command Palace? You're not lying to me, right?" The plump merchant was a bit doubtful and looked at the young man in front of him with a half-truth and half-lies. Situ Muyang's one sentence caused everyone to hold their breaths. Their big eyes were wide open as they stared at the stage. The items from the Imperial Command Palace were rarely leaked. Each treasure was the blood and sweat of its refiners. To be able to be passed down in the world, it was definitely extremely rare and priceless. Situ Muyang took out the pagoda from his chest. Immediately, a high-level Tao treasure's spirit energy directly rushed forward. The wind was like a tidal wave, bringing with it a boundless soul wave that shook everyone's soul. A high-level Tao treasure. Even if it isn't a treasure from the Imperial Command Palace, it is still extremely rare. "Young noble, how much do you want?" Situ Muyang shook his head and sighed. This Imperial Command Palace thing is said to be very popular in the Cloud region, but in my hands I'm a martial cultivator with too many treasures. It really isn't that useful. If someone can give me some primal stones, let's see who will pay more. Chapter 1586. Wow! It was still acceptable to buy it with a soul-testing stone, but this guy wanted to exchange it for money? Immediately, the crowd was filled with righteous indignation because they didn't have many good things on them. Envy, jealousy, and hatred made them lose their minds, and the crowd kept cursing. In order to appease the crowd, the fat merchant smiled awkwardly and said, "Young master, you can't say that. We are all people who treat money like dirt. You can't compare us with those ordinary people." "Oh yes, yes, yes." Situ Muyang pretended to be apologetic and said to the people present, "Light." Su Yi could feel a strong reaction from the badge at this moment. There were indeed people from Yutian Palace present, and more than one. Their souls were fluctuating because of Situ Muyang's words, and they were furious. Su Yi was secretly delighted, and Ah Chu and Li Shiran couldn't help but laugh, thinking, Mu Yang is really good at acting. "Everyone, I was wrong just now. This pagoda can't be sold for money. But I have a lot of Tao tools and magic tools. I really don't care about Yutian Palace's things. How about this? I have always admired alchemy and refining. If anyone has a better pill for me, I will accept it. It doesn't matter if it's worse." Situ Muyang's words once again caused a big commotion. Everyone present was noisy, and some people's faces were red as they kept shouting. "Young man, wait, I have a Huang grade pill here." "That's nothing, I have a mysterious grade pill here." Bang! A vast wave of spiritual energy spread out from the crowd. A handsome man with sword-like eyebrows were slightly slanted, and his brows were tightly knitted. He was tightly held back by the person beside him. "Senior brother, don't pull me, this kid is too much. He really doesn't put us in his eyes. We are just here to receive the guests, don't worry about other things." "Receive what?" "The Vice Palace Master said that he doesn't have any strength, so don't care about him. If it's Su Yi, then there's even less of a need to care. He caused our Central State Branch Palace to meet with disaster, implicating Elder Gyue, and now there are even people humiliating our Heavenly Command Palace. What does this count for? Su Yi's face instantly turned cold. He laughed coldly and said, as expected, Yutian Palace is intentionally making things difficult for me. Very good, I want to see what kind of monster this Vice Palace Master is. Boom. Instantly, a surge of earth attribute Yuan Qi drilled out from the ground. 2 rays of Yuan Qi light were like tentacles, directly dragging the 2 people out. Su Yi's expression changed slightly. He dashed out at lightning speed, only to see Han Yuro standing outside the crowd. Han Yuro's pretty face turned cold. She pulled the 2 deeper into the alley and said to the 2 who just spoke, "You 2 are from Jutian Palace? Is this how you treat your guests? Who are you? Why do you care?" The 2 disciples were dragged out. Because of their low cultivation, they directly sat on the ground and couldn't get up. Their eyes were filled with rising anger as they gritted their teeth and spoke. Then, Han Yuro smiled and took out a jade token. There were divine patterns constantly moving on it, as if an immeasurable amount of heaven and earth energy was faintly emitted. The word immeasurable was written on it. Immeasurable Sect Master? The 2 disciples' expressions changed drastically, their eyes filled with fear. I am under the orders of the Sect Master to seek guidance from Jutian Palace. Now bring me to Jutian Palace, or die. Han Yuro's gentle voice was like a spring breeze, but it contained rolling, killing intent. A terrifying aura immediately pressed down on the 2. What are you doing? Trying to take advantage of us? Su Yi took a big step forward, his speed as fast as lightning. His face was stern and cold. Which eye of yours saw me taking advantage of you? I found Jutian Palace myself. What does it have to do with you? You! Su Yi had always been the scoundrel. Today, he met someone who was even more scoundrel than him. He was instantly speechless. Moreover, it seemed like Han Yuro was definitely related to the immeasurable Sect Master. Now was not the time to make trouble. Surnamed Su, the people of Jutian Palace are already here and they won't bring you there. Why do you still have to shamelessly ask to go? Han Yuro chuckled. The 2 disciples' faces were filled with shock. They looked at Su Yi with fear and said, "You are the Su Yi that the Vice Palace Master mentioned?" "That's right. Why did your Vice Palace Master stop me from attacking?" One disciple's eyes flashed and said, "Because the Central State Branch Palace was implicated by you and Elder Gue didn't recruit you." The Vice Palace Master was deeply angry. Not only did he demote Elder Gue, he also ordered that Su Yi is not allowed to enter the palace. If Elder Gue was like this, then how could the Su family in Jutian Palace be protected? What about my Su family? What Su family? The 2 disciples glanced at each other and didn't understand. Su Yi's heart skipped a beat and said, "Didn't Elder Gue bring my Su family to Jutian Palace? Speak. Otherwise I'll kill you all." Boom. Su Yi activated the Primordial Chaos Supreme technique, spreading out with an unstoppable force. Cold stars flashed in his eyes, and the unparalleled power seemed to have crossed the ancient mountains and came over. Immediately, everyone's throat trembled. They swallowed a mouthful of saliva and began to suck in cold breath. "It's useless even if you kill us. We've never heard of this Su family." Elder Gue of Jutian Palace came alone. The 2 disciples trembled as they stared at Su Yi. Grandpa Su Yuntian and the Su family had always been Su Yi's weak spot. He wouldn't allow anyone to touch them. If something really happened at Jutian Palace, then this trip to Jutian Palace would definitely be covered with a bloody veil. Such a strong pressure. Han Yuro's eyes were filled with shock. "Su Yi, we have different reasons for going to Jutian Palace. Let's go together. Once we're there, you do your thing and I'll do mine." Han Yuro knew that Su Yi's trip to Jutian Palace had something to do with the Su family, which was why she was so nervous. Big Brother Su. At this time, Situ Muyang, Li Shiran, and the others had already arrived. The moment they arrived, their mouths were tightly shut. Han Yuro even gently shook her head, indicating for them not to speak. The bone-chilling coldness was like an ice cellar, freezing all the anger present. Situ Muyang's heart skipped a beat. Muyang, you go back to the sect first. I can handle Jutian Palace myself, Sui said in a deep voice. Situ Muyang had been with him for too long. They had already agreed to part ways when they reached Yunzhou. Now that he had found the location of Jutian Palace, there would be a lot of twists and turns in the future. Sui didn't want Situ Muyang to waste his cultivation time with him. Junior Martial Uncle. Situ Muyang was about to continue speaking when he was grabbed by Li Shiran, who frowned. AI. Situ Muyang saw Sui like this and knew that he couldn't persuade him. He thought that something would definitely happen and then sighed faintly. Alright. If Junior Martial Uncle is in trouble, I will definitely bring those freaks from the sect over and ruthlessly overturn Jutian Palace. Situ Muyang's eyes flashed with a trace of cold lightning. Junior Martial Uncle, take care of yourself. I'll go back to the sect first. Situ Muyang took a deep look at Sui, then nodded heavily to Li Shiran and Ah Chu. The wind attribute Yuan Qi under his feet suddenly rose, and in a flash, he disappeared into the void. Chapter 1587. So, Sui threw his half-grade soul emblem to the two Command Heaven Palace disciples. On the dazzling gold emblem, there was a triangular shape with 7 streaks of lightning. The last streak of lightning was faintly discernible. Immediately after, an extremely heavy soul energy spread out, surging towards the two disciples of Heavenly Command Palace. 3rd grade early stage soul controller master. One of the disciples exclaimed. And a heaven-grade soul controller. This was no small matter. Han Yuro, Li Shiran, and Ah Chu's eyes widened as they looked at the injured badge of the Heavenly Command Palace disciple. Sui didn't care and said in a deep voice, "Take me to the Heavenly Command Palace now. Quickly." A heaven-grade soul controller master would become an incomparably terrifying existence in the entire 6 continents, 3 continents and 1 sea. They were the top talents that all the top sects would fight for. It was rumored that a top heaven-grade soul controller master was comparable to an army of thousands. And in Juntian Palace, a heaven-grade soul controller master could obtain the support of the entire Juntian Palace's resources. They could even obtain the guidance of those experts who were already living in seclusion. In the future, a heaven-grade soul controller master would be able to move unhindered in the world. According to Elder Gyue, that was the best treatment that even the Sacred Mountain, Taiching Sect, Immeasurable Sect, Divine Tiger Sect, and Sky Dragon Sect couldn't provide. Sui believed that with this emblem, the Juntian Palace disciples wouldn't be able to refuse his request. Yes. The two Command Heavenly Palace disciples scrambled to their feet, terrified beyond words. Looking at Sui in front of them, not only was his combat strength outstanding, but his soul was also much stronger than theirs. Their hearts were filled with raging wave. Let's go. Sui looked up. Subsequently, Sui, Han Yuro, and the rest followed the two Imperial Heavenly Palace's disciples through a series of twists and turns, passing through several secluded streets before they arrived at a small house. This small house was similar in style to the other buildings in the Cloud region, but it still exuded a mysterious and boundless aura. Just as Sui had guessed, the moment he entered the small house, a surge of heaven and earth energy assailed his nostrils. Lord Su, this is the teleportation point of the headquarters. It's under the jurisdiction of the Cloud region's branch palace. If there's anything you need, you can directly teleport back to the headquarters through here. The Imperial Palace's disciple said respectfully. Unknowingly, the two's attitude towards Sui and the way they addressed him changed. Sui suddenly realized why the badge didn't react before. It turned out that Songyun County was only a teleportation point for the Heavenly Palace. Plus, the two disciples didn't come here to pick him up, so naturally there was no reaction. Suddenly, a whirlpool-like spiritual energy spread out in front of everyone. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. In less than a moment, everyone turned into specks of light and dissipated in a bright light curtain. The water coils around the green hills and the mountains around the water. The mountains float on the green waters and the water float on the mountains. On the surface of a vast and boundless lake, the beautiful scenery of the mountains along the shore was reflected. It was incomparably hazy. Under the reflection of the sky, it was magnificent and wonderful. In the clear sky, there was a large patch of white left, like a sparse and elegant ink. The mountains passed through the water, and a few water ducks walked on the water, splashing out white water foam like flying jade flowers. Between the mountains and rivers, there was a sky high and faint clouds, like a paradise outside of the material world. It was really a scene of cold rain connecting the river. The vast expanse of mist gave people a feeling of peace in the mortal world, and the great Tao was in the sky. The heaven and earth energy here is even denser than the boundless river. I actually didn't know. But how is this the headquarters? Han Yuro and Su-Yi stood on the shore, and in front of them was a panoramic view of the vast and boundless river. In the distance, the treetops of the cloud mist, the misty valleys were as clear as a knife. The grass and trees were verdant and the birds were chirping. Where was the appearance of a sect? Miss, you can make a guess. Lord Su can also make a guess. The Imperial Palace's disciple had a smile on his face, as if he was watching a good show. Imperial Palace is truly detached. They don't want to have too much to do with the mortal world. Su-Yi, who had been frowning along the way, saw the boundless and majestic scenery in front of him, and his mood became much better. He then smiled and used the imperial art of heaven to spy on the location of Imperial Palace. From the depths of his mind, an extremely warm energy wrapped around him. Immediately, strands of lustrous light rushed out and appeared with a thought. The Imperial Palace's disciple, who was originally very proud of the scenery and wanted everyone to guess where the entrance was, immediately became frightened again. He softly said, "How does he know the imperial art of heaven? Didn't he not join Imperial Palace? Lord Su, you can't." Boom! Along the way, the supreme art of origin, the heavenly beast's ancient scripture, and the imperial art of heaven were the three great cultivation methods that Su-Yi vowed to never give up. Using them now was naturally easy. Su-Yi's miraculous ability once again made Han Yuro, Achu, and Li Shi ran dumbfounded and gasped. As soon as the imperial art of heaven was used, Su-Yi's spiritual sense expanded countless times. The wind, the sun, the moon, the mountains, the sea, and the falling leaves could all be easily captured by Su-Yi. Under Su-Yi's concentration, the incomparably powerful soul energy became extremely majestic and powerful. Immediately, the heavenly origin beast soul in his mind was like a blazing sun, emitting an extremely condensed light. There are remnant souls nearby, Su-Yi said in his mind. The imperial art of heaven ranks soul controller. This is bad. The hearts of the disciples of Imperial Palace thumped. Feeling the fluctuations around Su-Yi's body, which were like waves connecting with the lake in front of them, the two disciples of Imperial Palace clearly felt that Su-Yi's Yuan Qi attribute and soul affinity was more than one level higher than theirs. This talent is on par with eldest senior brother. After a while, Su-Yi was overjoyed. There were a lot of water attribute remnant souls around, which was just right for his Yuan Qi attribute. Qi la la. As the hand seal condensed, the air around Su-Yi's palm constantly fluctuated, and the light flickered like a sunset. The bottom of the lake in front of him constantly rippled, and a monstrous aura gradually rose. The water mist filled the air, and the light was dazzling. Boom! Immediately, dragon-shaped water droplets rushed into the sky, and countless water droplets fell. A white flood dragon that spanned across the heaven and earth roared proudly in the void. Its aura was majestic, and its fierce eyes that were as bright as the moon flashed with a fierce light as it stared at everyone. Roar, ferocious and ferocious, its roar shook the sky. Like a living creature, a powerful aura fluctuated out, and the entire lake became bone-chillingly cold, and the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly. With such a powerful remnant soul, the white flood dragon raised its head and charged directly at him. Su Yi's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he immediately activated the heavenly origin beast soul. The blazing fire attribute Yuan Qi formed a wall of qi, and like a spatial barrier, it blocked in front of him. Bang! Chapter 1588. Dong! The scorching heat wave came from all directions. Li Shiran, Ah Chu, and the others could not block it in time and fell to the ground. Their eyes were filled with shock. The impact of the white flood dragon god is too shocking. Han Yuro was also anxious. She used her vital qi to create a shield in front of her. She was still in a daze from the unparalleled force just now. The clouds gradually disappeared, and the rain passed through the golden rainbow. The colorful light shone between Su Yi and the white flood dragon god. Su Yi used the Fuyao 100 transformation steps and stepped in the air. At a low altitude, a clean white robe fluttered in the wind. A monstrous pressure that filled the heavens and the earth was completely unleashed. He was like a disdainful war god that dominated the world, majestic and incomparably domineering. The powerful Origin Supreme technique was constantly circulating in the great void spirit sea, urging the heavenly origin demon soul that was glowing with the red light of the sun. The entire force of the attack was fearless. Hiss! As the rain fell, the white flood dragon god raised its head and let out a long roar. Its breath was like a storm that pushed everyone back. Su Yi was stunned. He pushed his Yuan Qi to the limit, and only then did he keep his feet firmly in place. What a powerful remnant soul! Su Yi exclaimed in his heart. It was comparable to Yunqing's wood spiritual god. If he had such a remnant soul to help him in the future, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. Kid, what are you planning now? The soul puppet's eyes drooped as it said unhappily. What do you think if I take it? Su Yi smiled. Is this little worm comparable to me? I'm one of the rarest demons in this world. The soul puppet roared, expressing its dissatisfaction to its heart's content. Su Yi chuckled in his heart and said, Old ghost, you're still jealous? Get lost. The iron soulfish closed its eyes and ignored Su Yi. Su Yi muttered to himself. The iron soulfish posed no threat to him as long as he was in the entryway. If the immemorial Great Tribulation really came and he found out about the past, there would still be a result on the day of the chaotic battle between gods and demons. Before that, I just want to be myself, Su Yi said softly. Looking down, the two disciples of the Imperial Celestial Palace kept kowtowing to the sky, their eyes filled with fear. He bowed towards the sky and said with a trembling voice, White Flood Dragon God, this is a new disciple from Drive Heavenly Palace. He doesn't know the rules and disturbed your cultivation, please forgive him. After he finished speaking, he continued to kowtow, his face ashen. Another Yutian Palace disciple also said to Su Yi, Lord Su, you should quickly apologize as well. He is the sole contract item of one of our important people, please don't do this. Please apologize quickly. The two from the Heavenly Palace urged Su Yi to apologize, but Su Yi turned a deaf ear to them. His eyes were cold. I don't care who you are. So what if you are an ancient remnant soul? It's reasonable for you to come out and bite me. Roar! There was another roar that shook the 9 heavens. There was a bone-chilling wind blowing, and the endless waves of air made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. It was extremely dense. The white flood dragon's body was covered with steel-like dragon scales that had already materialized. It was obvious that it had stayed in the cloud region for a long time. The tough scales were surrounded by a golden rainbow, shining brightly. They emitted the vicissitudes of thousands of years. Layer after layer, they transformed again and again. The white flood dragon god could no longer be compared to ordinary remnant souls of barbarian demons. It could be said that it was an extremely powerful demon ancestor expert. Its ferocious eyes were filled with killing intent as it looked at Sui. Its breathing was heavy like the wind. Above the void, one flood dragon and one human, one big and one small, but their auras were almost the same. Whoosh whoosh. At this moment, there were a few wind-breaking sounds from afar. A few long-robed disciples streaked across the sky and arrived in front of Sui in an instant. The leader was around 30 years old and had the cultivation of a half-step origin emperor. He had a resolute expression. When he saw the white flood dragon god, his eyes moved slightly as he waved the horsetail whisk in his hand. "Who are you?" Suyi's face darkened. The disciples of the Command Heaven Palace were even more shocked. They said in shock, "Senior Brother Tiangu, this is the distinguished guest that came to the Command Heaven Palace this time. He is the Sui that the Vice Palace Lord and Elder Gue often mentioned." Sui? Senior Brother Tiangu was dazzled by the name. He took a closer look at Sui. He squinted his eyes, and there was a trace of shock in his heart. He muttered, "At this age, you are already at the 4th level of the Origin Emperor realm. No wonder that old man Gue recommended you so strongly. You have caused a lot of trouble, and even disturbed Lord Flood Dragon God's cultivation." Sui smiled and said patiently, "Then what do you think we should do? Get lost. The Command Heaven Palace does not welcome you." Tiangu stared at Sui and turned to leave with the 2 disciples behind him. The disciples of the Command Heaven Palace were embarrassed. They said in a deep voice, "Lord Sui, Senior Brother Tiangu is our senior brother guarding the mountain. We need his permission to enter, unless we have the Palace Lord's personal order. I think we should leave." Sui was instantly enraged. Even if there were no Sui clan members in the Command Heaven Palace, he still had to barge into the Command Heaven Palace today. He had not even entered yet and was already rejected at the door. What kind of logic was this? Suddenly, the energy around Suyi's body surged once again, and a fiery red whirlpool appeared beneath his feet. His aura was indescribably terrifying and murderous. The fierce aura locked onto the 2 people who were about to leave, and he shouted, "Wait! Get back here!" Deng! Tiangu and the 2 disciples paused. Immediately, they circulated the art of Command Heaven and removed Suyi's energy. They turned around with murderous intent in their eyes. "What, you want to barge in?" Sui frowned. His face was cold as ice. He said in a deep voice, as the saying goes, "The ignorant are innocent. I didn't know that the white flood dragon was cultivating in seclusion here. You people don't even know what's right or wrong, and you're rejecting a heaven-tier soul controller master. Your imperial celestial palace has dominated the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. Is this how rude you are?" The 2 disciples behind him whispered to Tiangu, "Senior brother, the Command Heaven Palace has never dared to treat a heaven-rank soul controller lightly. Are we really going to do this?" Tiangu's eyebrows twitched. He said in a heavy voice, "Since the Vice Palace Lord is now the acting Palace Lord, we will listen to him. Sui is not allowed to enter the palace. He is not allowed." As if he had made up his mind, Tiangu stared at Sui and said sternly, "So what if you're a heaven-rank soul controller? The Command Heaven Palace can't do without you. I'll say it again, get lost." On the side, the white Jiao God's eyes were like torches. Its huge eyes were shining. Seeing the reaction of the 2 sides, it raised its head and roared again. Ignited by the Jiao God's aura, Suyi's anger surged. He shouted, "I must enter the Command Heaven Palace today. Those who stop me will die. The Command Heaven Palace will not tolerate your impudence." Tiangu and the 2 disciples behind him shouted. Their hands were constantly changing seals. The horsetail whisk floated, and the remnant souls of the fire eagle, fierce leopard, and wild bull gathered behind them. He didn't expect the three of them to be soul controllers. Soul controllers mainly relied on soul power, cultivation was secondary. Sui roared in his heart. Today, he would use the methods of the Command Heaven Palace to slap their faces. The heavenly Fey ancient scripture was quickly activated. At the same time, his hands formed the art of Command Heaven. White Jiao God, serve me! Chapter 1589. Boom! The White Jiao dragon clearly felt a mysterious force driving it. Its huge body was constantly twisting in the air. Sui fully activated the Origin Supreme technique and the Tianyuan ancient scripture, and there were also two kinds of forces surging wildly in his body. If one could see inside, they could clearly see that inside Suyi's body, the blazing Tianyuan demon soul emitted a dazzling light, and the crazy soul energy spread like waves to everyone's body. Hiss! The White Jiao dragon's fierce eyes exuded an extremely unusual light. Its vigilant eyes not only contained fear, but also a trace of intimacy. The White Jiao dragon sniffed, and Sui activated the art of driving the heavens again. Then the White Jiao dragon let out a low cry, constantly moving its body in the air. Its huge body turned the lake bed upside down, and the water splashed in all directions. The raindrops that filled the sky shot towards the heavenly barge like cannonballs. Wave after wave of water bombs, as fast as lightning, blasted across the sky with a destructive intent of killing, leaving countless arcs in the air. The water waves soared into the sky, and the roar was like thunder. "How dare you! Don't hurt my divine soul protector!" The heavenly boat roared in the air, obviously able to guess Suyi's intention. Roar! The two huge remnant souls of the fierce leopard and the wild bull spanned across the sky, and directly rushed over with their steel-like hooves. Their iron claws cut through the sky in front of them, and violently collided with the water bombs. Boom! The sonic booms continued to rise and fall, and the endless airwaves made Li Shiran and Ah Chu's faces turn pale. Their eyes were full of surprise as they looked at the boundless ripples in the sky, their chests heaving up and down. Is this the battle of the Soul Controller Master? Ah Chu clenched her hands tightly, unable to suppress her excitement, and said to Li Shiran. Whoosh! Before they could react, a human-shaped water elemental energy flashed in front of them, and Han Yuro left a voice in the air. Miss Li, Ah Chu, find a place to hide and take good care of yourselves. I'm going to help Sui. What should we do? The two disciples of Imperial Celestial Palace were sweating profusely, their eyes burning like flames. They were as anxious as ants on a hot pan, staring anxiously at the situation in the sky. Li Shiran and Chu looked at each other and then ran back. They found a huge rock to hide behind and watched the battle in the sky. They didn't want to let go of such a good opportunity to learn. Bang bang! GG! The fierce leopard and wild bull continued to fight with the water bullets in the air. At this moment, the fire eagle raised its wings and shook its blade-like feathers. It streaked across the sky and instantly appeared in front of Sui like a ball of fire. Sui was fully focused on subduing the white flood dragon god. The three great techniques enveloped Sui like a divine halo. At this moment, he simply couldn't do anything else. When he looked back, the firehawk was already right in front of him. Little firebird, how dare you sneak attack me? Die! His palm moved slightly, and before the brilliant light could erupt from his palm, the fire eagle was hit by a stream of water. Immediately, like a broken cloth bag, it shook its feathers and fell from the sky. Sui recognized Han Yuro, who was formed from water yuan qi, from the dense water bullets. His spirits were instantly lifted, and Han Yuro also nodded heavily at him. Hurry up and subdue it. Let's break in. Okay. Sui shouted, his spirit roused. He turned to look at the white flood dragon god. After all, the white flood dragon god was not a corporeal body. After the battle, it was slightly exhausted. No one would have thought that Su-Yi would have such a strong soul force. The Tian Yuan demon soul's blazing aura made Su-Yi's body boil. The air around him was constantly rising, and the temperature was incomparably high. Hiss hiss. On the flood dragon's head, its small horns smashed into a small mountain nearby, forming a huge crater. The lake water was stirred up and the world was filled with mist. Soon, the sky changed color. Su-Yi seized the last chance and shouted. A beam of heavenly origin energy shot out from his eyes as he poured all of his soul energy into the white Jiao dragon. Originally, when a remnant soul was drawn out, as long as one's soul force was heaven-defying and one's cultivation was strong enough, the remnant soul would directly belong to them. But according to the disciples of the Heavenly Drive Palace, this white flood dragon was originally the contracted beast of a big shot of the Heavenly Drive Palace. After its death, the remnant soul's will was too deep, and it stayed at the entrance of the cloud region. At this moment, it was naturally not easy for Su-Yi to tame it. Looking at the ferocious white flood dragon, Su-Yi's aura and chi burst out. The collapsing space seemed to stop. Following the roars and pressure, the white flood dragon couldn't speak. Under Su-Yi's majestic power, it gradually submitted to Su-Yi and no longer resisted. In the end, it obediently crawled on the ground and rubbed against Su-Yi to show its intimacy. Impossible! The disciples of the Heavenly Drive Palace on the side roared. The white flood dragon god will only obey. No. Absolutely impossible. As soon as they finished speaking, several fan-shaped water elemental energy surrounded them in the air, catching them all in one fell swoop. Immediately, the remnant souls and cultivators in the sky all fell into the lake like birds with broken wings. Han Yuro stepped in the air and sneered, "With this little strength, you still have the time to care about others when you're fighting me." Rumble. In the distance, the white flood dragon soared into the sky. Su-Yi stood on the head of the white flood dragon, looking down at the world with unparalleled majesty as he spoke to Han Yuro and Li Shiran behind her. "Let's go. Let's enter the Heavenly Drive Palace. Big brother Su-Yi, wait for me." Chu and Li Shiran were very excited. The battle between the 5 soul controllers ended with Su-Yi subduing the white flood dragon. Su-Yi stood on the head of the white flood dragon, looking down at the entire Heavenly Drive Palace. The scenery of the mountains and rivers was like a paradise. The lake that had already calmed down was now quiet and serene again, looking very mysterious. Lord Su, the entrance is at the bottom of the lake. Go quickly. If you blame us, you must speak for us." The 2 disciples of the Heavenly Drive Palace were terrified. This Su-Yi had entered the palace. Who knew what kind of trouble he would cause? It was best not to offend him. Su-Yi smiled and commanded the white flood dragon god to quickly go to the bottom of the lake, leaving behind the 2 who were still in a daze. How could this white flood dragon god submit to him? Even the palace lord couldn't subdue it. How could a 4th-level origin sovereign be so terrifying? The other disciple of the Heavenly Drive Palace was even more exaggerated. His eyes were as wide as copper bells as he said, "Our Heavenly Drive Palace is going to be lively. He even knows the art of driving heaven. Where did he learn it from?" Boom. The 2 stood up at the same time, looked at each other and said, "Could it be? This doesn't make sense, wasn't it already dead?" Chapter 1590. Let's go. If it's really like this, then we're really finished. Let's hurry up and save senior brother Tiangu and inform the palace elders. Saying this, the 2 of them shook off the mud on their bodies and crawled into the river to fish out those unlucky bastards. The bottom of the lake was covered in water and grass. The deep blue lake water reflected the faint white clouds in the sky. The figures on the giant beast were like fish as they quickly found an incomparably large entrance. The entrance was shining with a faint yellow light. It was obviously a realm restriction. No wonder he didn't notice it earlier. The white flood dragon god's existence was probably to protect this place. Sui thought. Let's go. Let's go in. It was difficult to speak underwater, so Sui transmitted his voice to everyone with his eyes narrowed. Roar! The white flood dragon god spat out a dragon-like water column from its mouth, striking the yellow light. Immediately, the entire deep blue lake became extremely bright. The yellow light soared into the sky, filled with boundless energy waves. Immediately, the entire lake was split into two. The white flood dragon head carried Sui, Li Shiran, and the others on the riverbed. The incomparably blue water was like another world, causing Sui to gasp in amazement. The fish on both sides swam back and forth freely, but they couldn't pass through. The light in the middle was like an extremely strong spatial barrier. Humph! Now I've finally seen something that my old man has never seen before. Han Yuro's eyes flashed as she looked at the jade-like world under the lake. Her heart was incomparably carefree. Sui also shook his head in amazement, thinking, there's actually such a great fortune in this world. No wonder no one knows where the headquarters of the Imperial Palace is. It's a pity that the remnant soul can't speak. If the white flood dragon god could introduce it to us, then we would know more about the origin of the Imperial Palace. Boom! Strolling on the soft riverbed, the white flood dragon god's speed became faster and faster. Like lightning, it charged towards the stone door in the distance. Pung! The stone door exploded, and a sky full of light rushed towards Sui. The white flood dragon god put everyone down and bowed respectfully to Sui. Then, it turned into countless light spots and disappeared into the sky. I don't know if I can still summon him later. Sui was a little disappointed, but he immediately pulled himself together and walked towards the light. As soon as he walked out, an incomparably huge mountain peak stood above the lake. At the bottom of the mountain peak was an endless lake. Under the clear sky, the mountain peak towered into the clouds. What stood before them was not a majestic mountain range, but an incomparably huge mountain peak. The mountain peak split into three, forming three peaks. On top of the mountain peaks, there were stairs spiraling upwards like lifelike dragons, all the way up to the clouds. The mountain peak was filled with the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was majestic and magnificent. Such a magnificent mountain peak gave people the feeling of an immortal dwelling on it. Cloud region actually had such a place. Let's go up, Sui said to Han Yuro and the rest. He then turned into a stream of light and rushed up the cloud peak. Along the way, there were rows upon rows of houses that were filled with spiritual chi that soared into the sky. It was thicker than the aura of elixir pills and spiritual herbs. With a single glance, one could tell that this place had an abundance of elixir pills and weapons. Gosh, the spiritual chi here is too abundant. Sui squinted his eyes. The aura of the mountain peak in the middle was the thickest. It must be the place where the palace master resided. The few of them sprinted and arrived at the foot of the middle peak. Just as they were about to climb up, a few streams of light flew down rapidly. It was a few more figures. You are Sui? The person who spoke was around 30 years old. He had phoenix eyes and a high nose bridge. He looked rather handsome and his cultivation was at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm. He was wearing a green robe and had an aura. His eyes were cold as he sized up Sui. His eyes were not friendly. Sui gestured for Li Shiran and the rest to back off. He said, "What? Do you still want to fight?" A person beside him interrupted, "Sui, don't misunderstand. This is not the place to talk. Don't cause a commotion here. Senior brother Tian Ho and we are here to receive you." Sui's anger soared. He snorted and waved his sleeves. He said angrily, "I don't need your help. I can come in by myself. You can scram now." It turned out that the person who spoke first was called Tian Ho. He and Tiango belonged to the Tian generation. Tian Ho's face was gloomy and his eyes were cold. He looked at Su Yi without any fear and said anxiously, "Elder Gua asked me to bring you over. Su Yi, don't you think you have caused enough trouble for Master? You are Elder Gua's disciple?" Su Yi turned his head. There was a slight change in his attitude. Tian Ho nodded. His long robe fluttered even though there was no wind. It showed his unfathomable aura and strength. Tian Ho was definitely not at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm. If he was also a soul controller, his strength should be an extremely powerful expert in the one mountain, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 4 factions. Let's go. Don't let anyone see you. Elder Gua has been waiting for you for a long time. The disciple behind Tian Ho urged him. After pondering for a while, Su Yi looked at Han Yuro. Han Yuro shrugged and said softly, "You are the leader. We will go wherever you say. Anyway, I am here to be unlucky." Su Yi took a deep breath and cupped his hands. "I, Su Yi, apologize for my offense. Please bring me to see Elder Gua." In the past year, Su Yi had established a sect in the Chaos region, conquered second-rate forces, and made a name for himself. It was all thanks to Elder Gua's support in the Sacred Martial Assembly. This time, Elder Gua was implicated in this matter. Tian Ho didn't say anything else. He formed a hand seal, and a few 7th-level Origin Void Realm flying savage demonic beasts flew over. Their snow-white feathers shone resplendently under the sunlight. They were extremely beautiful. Their beaks were as sharp as knives. "Snow-feathered griffins, bring us to Master." Tian Ho's eyes suddenly became gentle. He touched the snow-feathered griffin's feathers and felt pity for them. Su Yi was suspicious. He used the skyward 100 transformation steps, and a strong wind carried Li Shiran, Achu, and the others onto the backs of the savage demonic beasts. In an instant, the snow-feathered griffins broke through the sky. With a flap of its wings, the strong wind brought everyone up into the sky. Everyone exclaimed in surprise. They were amazed by the snow-feathered griffin's speed and impact. It was simply the starry sky of the flying world. Su Yi pondered. These are the birds that Master loves the most. When Master was the palace lord in the central state, I was the one who raised them. Other than the first time, Master would never let me touch them. After saying that, Tian Ho's slender face was filled with loneliness. He didn't say anything else. For Su Yi, Master had actually used the snow-feathered griffins to welcome him. To Tian Ho, this was already a great gift. Chapter 1591. The 2 disciples behind him looked at Su Yi with resentment. After Master came back, he went to the back peak a few times. Not long after, the palace master went into seclusion. Later on, Master was blamed by the acting palace master and was demoted to an elder with no duties. After that, Master simply stayed in seclusion at Lingquan Peak and didn't go anywhere. He didn't care about the griffin and left it to senior brother Tian Wu. Recently, Master summoned me and said that you were coming. He told me to get the griffin ready to welcome you at any time and rush to Lingwe Peak without delay. When we went to the elders' meeting on behalf of Master, someone suddenly barged in and said that you had entered the palace. We knew something was wrong and rushed over to take you back. If second senior brother got there first, it would be bad. The disciple beside him was still in shock as he recalled the scene at the meeting. Let's go. As long as it's not eldest senior brother, everything is fine. Let's get Master to meet him before the deputy palace master. After that, Tian Wu continued to sit on the griffin without saying a word. His robe and long hair fluttered in the wind, making him look like a hidden immortal. The few of them rode on the griffin. After a few leaps, they broke through the clouds and chased after the sun. In less than a quarter of an hour, they arrived at the center of the right peak. It was hard to tell from afar, but it turned out that there were 18 smaller peaks on the right side of the peak. It was like a hand, with 18 fingers of varying thickness placed horizontally on the right side of the peak. The entire Commandant Palace was like the palm of a giant, with countless branches, leaves, and vines growing out of it. It was magnificent and had a unique shape. On the palm, a milky white gas shrouded the peak of the mountain like clouds. The higher it went, the more it looked like a divine cloud. It was flowing with colorful lights and overflowing with golden light. It was extremely magical. Among them, each finger peak was extremely tall. They were like bamboo shoots that fell straight on the ground. They were neat and tidy, blocking the sun and clouds. It was very majestic. Each of the 18 finger peaks had a clear division. On the mountain, there was a lush forest and tall bamboo, a mountain of blades and swords, and the mountain that Tian Wu led Su-yi and the others to was at the center of the mountain peak, where the word Yu was written in large letters. The strokes are grand and unrestrained, lean and handsome, and the fluttering of dragons and snakes reveal a slight understanding of the hidden world. Every stroke is filled with the author's comprehension and pursuit of the Tao of martial arts and material refinement. Su-yi rode on and flew past, and he was still able to sense the profoundness and unfathomability of it while being surrounded by clouds and mist, and he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration in his heart, "Good writing! This is what Master wrote in high spirits when he moved into Lingyue Peak after becoming an elder. Even now, it still retains the vigor and elegance of the past." His eyes were filled with excitement. When he spoke of his master and Ling Yefeng, his heart was filled with respect and admiration. Elder Gyue has a few good disciples. But what does Elder Wu mean by this? Su-yi asked in doubt. Tian Wu glanced at Su-yi, his eyes filled with surprise. It seemed that he really didn't know anything about Jutian Palace. When talking about Jutian Palace, Tian Wu's words flowed like a river. He was overflowing with interest, and his face was no longer dark as he introduced it to Su-yi. The headquarters of Jutian Palace had Mount Jutian as its axis and Gongke Lake as its base. Mountains and rivers intersected, forming a circle. It gathered the core of yin and yang, gathered the energy of the sun, and gathered the essence of the moon. It absorbed the spiritual energy of all things and nourished spiritual birds and wild beasts. It was a rare treasure land for cultivators. Mount Jutian was split into 3 circles. The left side was the Gantian Mountain Branch Peak, where the martial arts, alchemy, blacksmithing, and alchemy factions cultivated and practiced. The right side was the Dikuan Branch Peak with 18 fingers. It was where the 18 most influential elders and their direct disciples lived. Because Jutian Palace rarely interfered with the martial arts of the world and only focused on alchemy and blacksmithing, they strived for perfection in the soul control Tao. Thus, these 18 elders were the core talents of Jutian Palace. They understood the most complete pill recipes, diagrams, scriptures, secret techniques, cultivation methods, and so on. They were the most important batch of talents in Jutian Palace. Among the 18 elders, the top 8 elders were in charge of teaching. There was a leading elder who was in charge of all teaching duties. His sole power was heaven-defying. A leading elder was in charge of all matters and personnel management. The annual Jutian Palace Soul Competition was the leading elder's most important task. Martial arts, alchemy, blacksmithing, and soul control. The 4 factions had 2 each for alchemy and blacksmithing, and 1 for martial arts and soul control. Martial arts only had 1 elder because Jutian Palace mainly focused on refining items and blacksmithing. They didn't pay much attention to martial arts, so 1 was enough. Soul control only had 1 elder because soul control masters were extremely rare. Good ones were even rarer as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. The last 10 elders were in charge of all matters in the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean. They were called the 10 Jutian Lords in Jutian Palace, enjoying unparalleled brilliance. They were on the same level as the Vice Palace Lord. In the center was the middle Quake Peak. Its area and spiritual energy was something the left and right peaks couldn't compare to. Its specialty was mainly in the words hide, guard, and clumsy. Hide represented the heavenly martial house, heavenly pill house, heavenly soul house, heavenly artifact house, etc., which were all at the middle Quake Peak. Guard meant that the core of Jutian Palace's defensive formation was at the middle Quake Peak. Clumsy, middle Quake Peak might be the same size as the other peaks, but the back peak was incomparably large. Even the 3 Vice Palace Lords and Grand Elders could only live at the middle Quake Peak. They never had the right to enter the back peak. Rumor has it that the back peak was dozens of times larger than the middle Quake Peak. Moreover, the Palace Lord had ordered that no one was allowed to enter the back peak. Those who disobeyed would be killed. As for the ordinary disciples, guards, and visitors, they couldn't casually go to any of the peaks. Even if they wanted to go, they had to be led by an elder. They usually lived around Archkay Lake. The buildings they passed by earlier were where the ordinary disciples lived and studied. However, it was still the headquarters of Jutian Palace. The resources they could get were incomparable to the outside world. Roughly speaking, there were only a few thousand people living on Mount Jutian, including the elders. There were only a few 100,000 people in total. This was only the size of the 100 Herb Academy. However, Sui knew that these few 100,000 people could go against the entire holy mountain without fear. One could see how terrifying this kind of power was. It was not an exaggeration to say that one person could fight against 10 people. The back peak has never allowed anyone to enter. Could it be that there is something hidden here? This palace master is also very mysterious. Sui muttered, rubbing his chin as he pondered. Chapter 1592. Suddenly, Tian Wu's words entered Su Yi's ears. So you should know that Master has been very concerned about you. He lost his position as one of the 10 vassals because of you, but he has never complained in front of anyone. Hearing this, Su Yi's face sank. The word you just now fully explained the importance of the Central Province Branch Palace Master to Elder Gue. It was the greatest glory in his heart. Now that it was taken away because of him protecting Su Yi, one could imagine how disappointed Elder Gue was. Su Yi's heart was filled with self-blame. Suddenly, he unconsciously clenched his fists and said in his heart, I will definitely take revenge for Elder Gue. It's fine if he has a problem with me, but it's absolutely impossible for him to have a problem with someone who cares about me. By the way, Brother Tianchang, did you see anyone from my Su family in the Yutian Palace? Su Yi was slightly anxious and asked, Su family? Have you seen them? After Tian Wu finished talking about the Yutian Palace, his face returned to its cold expression and he asked the 2 disciples behind him. The 2 disciples also expressed that they did not know. We have been living on Linghui Peak and have not seen your family. When you see Master in a while, ask him personally. Perhaps things will become clear then. Sui nodded gently and prayed in his heart that he did not come too late on this trip to the Yutian Palace. If the Yutian Palace did not keep their promise and caused even the slightest harm to Grandpa and the Su family, even if there was kindness, they would owe Elder Gue too much. This debt would have to be settled separately. Behind him, Li Shiran and Ah Chu smelled a trace of unease in the air. They walked up and stood side by side with Su Yi, not knowing what to say. They knew that Su Yi was someone who would sacrifice his life for the people he was protecting. What are you afraid of? If something really happens to you, Big Sister will help you pierce through the sky. Han Yuro patted her chest as she looked at Su Yi and said righteously. Li Shiran couldn't help but chuckle softly, thinking that this Miss Han not only likes to dress up as a man, but also speaks and acts with such a manly spirit. Coupled with such a beautiful face, she really is a valiant person. Su Yi thought to himself. Then, he smiled and nodded at Han Yuro. This girl must have an extraordinary status in the infinite sect. It was rare for her to be so down-to-earth. After a while, Tianwu led Sui, Han Yuro, and Li Shiran to the top of Lingyue Peak. Although Lingyue Peak was only one of the 18 finger peaks, the distance between each of them was extremely far. Judging from this, it seemed to be extremely spacious. Looking into the distance from the top, the beautiful scenery of the entire imperial mountain range could be seen. The grass and trees were warm yellow, and the sky was filled with spiritual birds. The spiritual energy that swept through the world rushed over layer after layer, like a continuous stretch of snowy mountains that flew for thousands of miles. It instantly made one feel relaxed and happy. The dense rays of sunlight illuminated the world and scattered over the entire Arch K Lake. It was like an extremely smooth and flat mirror. Between the towering mountains and lofty ridges, between the water and the sky, between the lake and the mountains, heaven and earth blended together. It was a magnificent and beautiful scene. This Lingyue Peak has such a majestic scene. The scenery of Imperial Mountain Range must be even more magnificent. Han Yuro couldn't help but exclaim softly with praise in her eyes. Incense burners and waterfalls look at each other from afar. The cliffs are steep and towering. Green shadows and red clouds reflect the morning sun. Birds can't fly to Wu Tianzhang. Between the magnificent view of the world, the vast river flows endlessly. The yellow clouds move for thousands of miles, the white waves flow through the snowy mountains. When Sui saw the majestic mountains and rivers in front of him, he couldn't help but let out the heroic feelings in his heart. The wild emotions in his chest surged like the Yangtze River as he sang to his heart's content. Good poem. Sect Master Su, since that's the case, this old man will also take advantage of the fact that I'm not old yet. Let me go. For 100 years I've taught you to be drunk. 36,000 miles long. Suddenly, a dull and old voice came faintly from the entire Lingyue Peak. It was like the voice of a god from beyond the heavens that was hidden in the clouds. It made one's spirit tremble. Master! Tianwu and the disciples behind him immediately knelt down with a respectful expression. Sui also recognized the voice of old man Guyu. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he cupped his hands towards the sky and said, I hope Palace Master Guyu won't blame me for being late. Ah, you're not late, you're just in time. Sect Master Su, bring your little friend in. Elder Guyue's voice came from the vast sky again. After that, there was no more sound. Tianwu, guard the Lingyue Villa. No one is allowed to enter. You must guard it. Elder Guiyue told Tianwu with his vital qi telepathy skill. Tianwu's expression turned solemn, as if he was facing a great enemy. He nodded heavily. Tianwu approached Sui and pointed at a small building in the northeast direction. He said gently, Go in quickly. Master is inside. I'll help you guard the outside. Sui looked at it deeply and blinked. Then, he went into the small building with Han Yuro and the rest. Approaching the Lingyue Villa, Sui felt that the room was very ordinary at first. There was no aura of an expert at all. He was puzzled. Something big is going to happen in the Yutian Palace. Elder Guiyue is really calm for being able to sit still. He gently pushed the door open and walked through the corridor to a small hall. An old figure had been waiting there for a long time. Sui finally saw the old figure that he had not seen for a long time. Long time no see, Sect Master Su. Elder Guiyue was calm and composed as he smiled softly. It was still the same old figure. He was spirited but hale and hearty. His silver-white hair was combed into a bun, and he was wearing a plain robe with cloud patterns. He was always proud and kind. He was holding a cup of fragrant tea in his hand and carefully sipping it. Palace Master Guiyue, how have you been? Seeing that Palace Master Guiyue was in good spirits, Su Yi's heart immediately calmed down a little. Palace Master Gyue, I've caused you to lose the position of Palace Master in Central State. I'm really uneasy. Su-yi suppressed the impatience in his heart and asked in doubt. You don't have to blame yourself, Sect Master Su. The Palace Master has been in seclusion for many years, and the matters in the palace have always been handled by Vice Palace Masters Wichu Feng. He has always been at odds with us 10 great vassals. The Commander Elders and Teaching Elders have always supported the Vice Palace Master, but we 10 great vassals have always supported the Palace Master. He only used an excuse to remove me. Perhaps I've been the Palace Master of Central State for a long time, and it's a good time for me to cultivate my character. Without the Palace Master, the Heavenly Command Palace has become a little foul. Fortunately, the Palace Master took pity on me and left Lingyue Peak to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have a place to stay. Gyue snorted heavily. Elder Gyue slowly shook his head and carefully observed the changes in Su-yi. His eyes were full of extraordinary splendor as he nodded lightly. Let's not talk about that anymore. I didn't see wrongly. In just over a year, Sect Master Su actually has such amazing achievements. You're really a genius. However, Sect Master Su still has to let go of the soul control art. Chapter 1593. Su-yi smiled bitterly. All along the way, he had been relying on his heaven-grade soul to fight with others. The art of driving the heavens had stopped at the stage of cultivation. Up until now, he was still at the early stage of the 3rd grade. I've neglected the cultivation of my soul, so I came here to ask for advice. I wonder if my grandfather is well? Did you bring them here? Su-yi couldn't help but ask. Palace Master Gyue looked at Su-yi with a solemn expression and said, Sect Master Su, when Zhuochu Feng demoted me and asked me to return to the Heavens Drive Creek, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to help you take care of the Su family, so I went to find the Palace Master who was in seclusion. What did the Palace Master say? Su-yi was even more anxious. He wanted to know what happened later, so he asked softly. After a pause, Elder Gyue stroked his beard and said, The Palace Master knows. Everything will be handled by the Palace Master, and he asked me to return to Lingyue Peak to rest. We'll talk after he comes out of seclusion. Su-yi couldn't help but stand up anxiously. However, Gyue's expression was even more solemn as he said, However, since the Palace Master has promised me, he won't go back on his word. I guarantee with my life that the Su family will be safe and sound. Han Yuro frowned and said in shock, What's the use of your guarantee? Can your life compare to the lives of hundreds of people? Miss Han. Su-yi pulled Han Yuro to his side with a solemn expression. The 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea all had their own Shadow Hall disciples, but they hadn't heard any news about the Su family. His grandfather and the Su family indeed hadn't returned to Barbarian City. Until now they had no choice but to trust him. Su-yi gritted his teeth and said, Senior, you've saved me from danger many times, so I choose to believe you. However, if the Palace Master doesn't fulfill his promise, then I'll cause a commotion in the Heavens Drive Palace. Looking at Su-yi, Gyue shook his head and smiled bitterly. Sect Master Su's temper hasn't changed at all. In 2 days, the Heaven Riding Soul competition would be held. The Palace Master, who had been in seclusion for many years, would also be attending. At that time, Sect Master Su could ask him and he would know. At that time, I'll see what Zhuochu Feng does. Heavenly Soul Race? Elder Gyue's expression changed, and he said, Just now, Tian Wu also gave you a detailed introduction of the Imperial Celestial Palace's situation, right? The Imperial Soul competition is not only related to the future of all the headquarters disciples, but also related to the ranking of the ordinary elders. Other than the 18 strong elders, there were a total of 103 normal elders in Command Heavenly Palace. The several thousand disciples, other than their daily studies, also had to diligently study in front of their respective elders. 103 elders meant that there were 103 teams participating in the soul tournament. According to Elder Gyue, the heavenly soul race placed the soul tournament as its main focus, and it was divided into cultivation, pill refinement, equipment refinement, and soul refinement. The heavenly soul race was held once every 3 years. Every time a disciple obtained first place in a competition, the disciple would be able to obtain a benefit from the Imperial Celestial Palace. At the same time, the elder would be able to obtain a position in the next selection of elders and become an expert elder in advance. If the same disciple were to obtain 2 first places, 3 first places, or even 4 first places, this would be unprecedented in history. Not only the disciples, but the elders would also be able to obtain the supreme reward from the Palace Master. This was extremely attractive. Since I've become an alchemist, then how can I still participate in the soul-controlling competition? Su-yi was slightly bewildered. Pill refinement, equipment refinement, soul refinement, and even cultivation required an extremely great amount of soul strength. So, the competition was usually carried out in groups, and soul-controlling masters were naturally the first to stand out. Even though pill refinement wasn't active in the soul-refining competition, it could provide soul strength and utilize the formidable quality of the soul to help the alchemist refine even more formidable medicinal pills. It was the same for equipment refinement. Gyue explained faintly. The heavenly soul race was an internal competition held by the Imperial Celestial Palace to select the most outstanding disciples and elders. The 18th elder was originally on the same level as the Vice Palace Master, so he couldn't participate. However, for the sake of fairness, the 18th elder could send out 4 to 5 people to strengthen the weaker teams and assist them from the side. Now that Elder Gyue had been demoted, he was no longer a commander elder, nor a teaching elder, nor was he a vassal elder. Therefore, Lingyu Peak was no different from an ordinary elder. Naturally, he was qualified to participate in the competition. Then what's the benefit this year? Su-yi was a little curious. The benefits are all randomly determined by the Palace Master. If you can win and make the Palace Master happy, then anything is possible. Elder Gyue took a sip of tea. He was full of smiles. Senior, then can I participate? Su-yi asked. Originally, I was an elder vassal, and you're not a member of the Heavenly Soul Palace. Naturally, you can't participate. Now, I'm nothing, just an ordinary Lingyu Feng. I don't have so many rules and regulations. I'll fight for a spot from the Central Plains for you to participate. Moreover, you're a soul controller above the heaven grade. Of course, you're strong enough to participate. I just don't know if you'll participate in martial cultivation or soul cultivation. If possible, I'll participate in both. Su-yi muttered. His eyes were filled with determination. Su-yi glanced at the surprised Elder Gyue, Han Yuro, and the others. As long as there are no restrictions, I hope they can participate and help Lingyu Feng win first place. Su-yi explained the situation to Elder Gyue. He said softly, Oh? The Li family of the Central Plains? I've been the Palace Master of the Central Plains for many years. I've always wanted to pay them a visit, but I didn't expect to encounter such a disaster. It's really, Sect Master Su, how about this? I'll personally bring the Li siblings for a test. Then, we'll decide which one to participate in. What do you think? Bang! Just as Su-yi was about to answer, a heart-wrenching roar and the sound of metal clashing came from outside. Su-yi knew that it must be the second senior brother that Tian Chong mentioned earlier. Palace Master Gyue's eyes were filled with coldness. Su-yi also knew that Gyue had made a move, so he immediately said, Palace Master Gyue, I was the one who caused this incident. I should be the one to solve it. Please bring Ah Chu and the others for a test. I'll be back soon. Han Yuro was also a little anxious. She said anxiously, "I'll go with you." Swoosh. The two figures turned into streams of light and flew out of the building. Gyue's kind and gentle eyes were suddenly filled with anger. He said to Li Shiran and Ah Chu, "It seems that I haven't been out for a long time. Some people have forgotten what I look like. Little friend, come with me." As soon as he finished speaking, the energy around Elder Gyue dissipated. It was as if he had melted into the air and disappeared. There was only a string of light guiding the way in the void. Outside the Lingyu villa, on the flat ground of the mountain, remnant souls were drifting, and killing intent filled the sky. There were traces of battle between remnant souls and vitality chi erupting on the mountain. Chapter 1594. Tian Wu was panting heavily as the horsetail whisk in his hand fell to the ground. He used his palm to support himself on the mountain as he panted heavily like a broken bellows. A tall man with bulging chest muscles had a sneer in his eyes. He said with a deep voice, "Tian Wu, weren't you running fast just now? Quickly hand over Sui." "What Sui? I don't know," Tian Chong said furiously as he covered his chest. The one who spoke was the second senior brother of Jutian Palace, Ji Feibao. He was also a heaven-class soul controller. He had outstanding talent and was ruthless. He was also the personal disciple of one of the vice palace masters, Wu Kun. From top to bottom, Jun Haotian, the personal disciple of vice palace masters Wiqiufeng, the personal disciple of vice palace master Wu Kun, Ji Feibao, the personal disciple of vice palace master Qing Gaoming, and Jin Qianyun. They were the big senior brother, second senior brother, and third senior brother of Jutian Palace. Tian Wu was the personal disciple of Elder Gyue. Lingyue Peak was ranked 7th among the 18-finger peak. Therefore, Tian Wu was the 10th senior brother of Jutian Palace. To be able to become a personal disciple of Jutian Palace, all of them had heaven-class soul quality. However, in terms of soul controller grades, Ji Feibao was a beginner 4th-grade soul controller while Tian Wu was an advanced 3rd-grade soul controller. There was a huge difference in strength. Soul controller grades ranged from 1st grade to 7th grade. A 4th-grade soul controller was equivalent to the Origin Emperor realm. A 5th-grade soul controller was equivalent to an Origin Ancestor realm expert. A 6th-grade soul controller and above only existed in legend. No one had ever seen one before. Tian Wu and Ji Feibao's strength was equivalent to the difference between a half-step Origin Emperor and a 3rd-level Origin Emperor. They couldn't be compared at the same time. When Elder Gyue was the palace master of the Central State Branch Palace, Tian Wu had to help take care of the affairs of Lingyue Peak and travel between Lingyue Peak and the Central State. Cultivation was very important. More or less, Tian Wu would be delayed. It was normal for him to be defeated. Huff huff. Tian Wu's eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Ji Feibao. His hands were trembling non-stop. His chest had been scratched by the claws of the remnant souls. His flesh was badly mangled as red liquid flowed out. "Junior brother Tian Ho, don't blame me for being ruthless. If you don't tell me, I'm going to force my way in. How dare you? Lingyue Peak is not a place for you to behave atrociously. If you want to catch someone, you'll have to do it over my dead body. Let's see if I dare." Ji Feibao bellowed furiously. A ray of light burst out from his palm, and an earth-shattering pressure whizzed over. Immediately, Ji Feibao displayed his early rank 4 soul controlling cultivation. His heavenly grade soul pressed down on Tian Wu's body like a mountain. His flesh and blood were dripping as he spoke to Tian Wu. "Oh right, where's your useless master? Was he trying to protect Su-yi? Don't you think Su-yi is a jinx?" Pooh. Tian Ho felt as if his soul energy was being torn apart by the giant claw. His vision turned black, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "You're not allowed to talk about my master. A sharp glint flashed across Tian Wu's handsome face, and his eyes were filled with hatred for Ji Feibao. Just as he was about to fly up and fight to the death with Ji Feibao, Ji Feibao sent a flying kick at Tian Ho's head, causing another streak of blood to appear in the void. How dare you be so stubborn? Look at yourself. Where's your master? Haha, both master and disciple are useless. Where's Su Yi whom you're protecting? How dare you protect the person who trespassed the imperial palace? Die. Ji Feibao was filled with killing intent. He formed a handprint in his hand, and the imperial palace art was activated. Looking coldly at Tian Wu, who was bleeding profusely on the ground, Ji Feibao spoke as if he was giving an ultimatum. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for following the wrong person. You shouldn't have gone against eldest senior brother. Open your eyes in your next life. In the blink of an eye, a stream of fire flew across the sky, and a figure that looked like a divine bird suddenly appeared. It was Su Yi and Han Yuro, who had rushed over from the Lingyue villa. Su Yi's long robe fluttered in the wind, and his clothes fluttered along with the wind. A biting cold killing intent shot out like a cold sword. He stared coldly at Ji Feibao and said, "Leave your leg behind, and I won't kill you." Within the imperial palace, Su Yi didn't need to care about the fights between fellow disciples. However, Tian Wu was beaten up by Ji Feibao because he wanted to buy time for himself. This was different. Su Yi was going to take revenge for this. Ji Feibao's lips curled up slightly as he looked at Su Yi. He squinted his eyes and sneered, "You're Su Yi? You're so young, but you're actually at the 4th level of the Origin Sovereign Realm. How rare." Before Ji Feibao could finish his sentence, his expression changed abruptly as he sneered. "No wonder you beat up junior brother Shoshan. It's a pity that you came to the wrong place. You shouldn't have brought a woman here." Han Yuro's gaze was cold as she said furiously, "Who are you talking about?" Su Yi twisted his body and shielded Han Yuro behind him, dodging an incomparably ferocious attack. Boom! Just as Ji Feibao finished his sentence, his body flickered with a huge radiance. An earth attribute golden back fire lizard's remnant soul instantly rose behind him. The golden back fire lizard's mouth was filled with sharp fangs as it spat out lava from its mouth, exploding like a bomb. The mountains exploded one after another, and the scorching hot lava brought about ripples that distorted the space as the gigantic lizard approached at high speed. Su Yi was stunned. Ji Feibao wasn't a pushover as his strength couldn't be underestimated. His soul power was something that Su Yi had never seen before. Just the fact that Ji Feibao could summon the remnant soul so easily meant that Ji Feibao's level was much higher than Su Yi's. He should be a rank 4 soul controller. His strength is equivalent to the 3rd to 4th level of the Origin Emperor realm. Han Yuro said softly with a grave expression. Su Yi calmed down and analyzed the enemy's strength. Since he couldn't win with his soul power, he would suppress him directly. "Take care of Tian Wu. I will deal with him." Su Yi was furious. Ha! In a split second, Su Yi fully unleashed his strength at the 4th level of the Origin Emperor realm. The Origin Supreme technique in his body was like a whirlpool as waves of energy rushed out from his body. This time, Su Yi was prepared to fight violence with violence and fight speed with speed. In an instant, Su Yi's skyward 100 transformation steps produced countless afterimages in the air. He circulated the art of driving heaven at the same time to resist Ji Feibao's powerful soul suppression. "What are you waiting for? Kill that woman!" Ji Feibao roared at the disciples behind him. As though they had just woken up from a dream, they saw that Han Yuro was the only one beside Tian Wu. The Imperial Palace is nothing more than this. Trash that bully with numbers. Han Yuro knitted her brows and circulated her cultivation as a rank 3 soul controller like Su Yi. A suppressive soul power pressed down on the disciples of the Imperial Palace. Chapter 1595. Third Level Heaven Grade. A few disciples of the Soul Manipulator Master exclaimed. Subsequently, all sorts of remnant souls appeared behind them and clashed with Hanyuro. In an instant there were continuous sonic booms on Lingwe Peak. The terrifying lava overturned the soil layer and gushed out. The scorching remnant lava sprayed into the sky. Su-yi twisted and turned in the air a few times, and after a series of somersaults, he was already familiar with the attacks. Su-yi looked for an opportunity, and the fire attribute light in his hand exploded once again. The endless palm prints that filled the air were domineering and destructive. Fiery sky net palm. Rumble. In an instant the fiery shadow filled the sky. The ripples in the entire void twisted and swept out. Countless fiery waves rushed towards the golden-back fire lizard like snakes and formed a terrifying wall of fire. Instantly, the entire mountain peak began to tremble. Terrifying tongues of fire danced in the air, rendering the entire sky scorching hot. The entire horizon seemed to be surging with crimson lava. Everyone's face revealed a hint of shock. This is too terrifying. He actually blocked senior brother Feibao's soul spirit energy. Bang! In less than 15 minutes, the afterimage collapsed. Su-yi's body was surging with divine radiance. The demonic demon god battle armor was glowing faintly with a golden color. His body looked as though it was made of steel and looked majestic. On the cliff, his beard and hair were fluttering. His eyes were filled with killing intent. PFFF. Ji Feibao was like a kite with a broken string. His clothes were scorched black, and his eyes were filled with astonishment and fear. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell onto the fiery red stone wall. Black smoke was constantly emitting from his body. He was in a sorry state. The smell of roasted flesh was carried by the mountain breeze. How can you be so strong? Impossible. Ji Feibao's eyes widened like copper bells. What made Ji Feibao even more surprised was Su-yi's physical strength. The collision of the two produced such a huge impact, but Su-yi didn't retreat at all. This wasn't the physical strength that an origin emperor should have. Su-yi's expression was cold. He leaped in front of Ji Feibao and was fuming with anger. He curled his lips into a smile and said, "You want to play with fire with me? I'm afraid you got the wrong person. I hope you don't play with fire in your next life. Playing with fire will get you burned." On Hanyuro's side, she had also finished her battle. Clapping her hands, she fed the heavenly barge a few medicinal pills. Behind her, several disciples of the Imperial Celestial Palace were lying on the ground, wailing and groaning. "Su-yi, spare my life. I'm not the one who is against you." Ji Feibao felt Su-yi's bone-chilling murderous intent and instantly softened as he spoke. Su-yi smiled and said softly, "If you're not targeting me, then your eldest senior brother is targeting me?" Ji Feibao remained silent. His eyes were clearly filled with fear. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and was unwilling to reply. Looking at Ji Feibao's trembling appearance, Su-yi's heart was filled with disdain. "I won't make things difficult for you." "Then where are they? Tell me and I'll spare your life." "They're still having a regular meeting at the peak before the earthquake. I'm in charge of checking if the heavenly barge is looking for you." Ji Feibao's eyes were filled with fear. Su-yi clapped his hands and looked into the distance. Instantly, a flame of anger rose in his heart as he said, "Zhuqiu Feng? You've been making things difficult for me even before you came in. After you came in, you found someone to kill me? It seems like you don't want to be a human but insist on being a ghost." Bang! A blazing lightning flame roared out from Su-yi's right hand and hit Ji Feibao's leg. A crisp sound was heard. Crack! Another miserable shriek resounded from the Lingwe Peak, like a pig being slaughtered, resounding through the clouds. Ji Feibao and the disciples of the Imperial Celestial Palace beside him couldn't stop breathing in cold air. Their veins were bulging. They didn't expect Su-yi to really dare to attack him, the second senior brother of the Imperial Celestial Palace. Are you really going to fall out with the Deputy Palace Master of the Imperial Celestial Palace? Han Yuro turned to look at Su-yi and asked with a slight frown. Why? Are you afraid? Or are you afraid of causing trouble for the immeasurable sect? Su-yi turned around with a deep gaze. I'm not afraid. I'm here to show my power to the Imperial Celestial Palace. It's the same whether you give it to me sooner or later. Han Yuro shrugged her shoulders and turned her head away without any trace of politeness. Su-yi withdrew his vital qi and looked at the magnificent building in the Zhongzhen Front Range. He said, "The Imperial Celestial Palace has always been protective of their disciples. I would like to see why Elder Gyue can't be biased when Ji Feibao is biased." The matter between his grandfather and the Su clan couldn't be delayed for even a moment. Su-yi made up his mind. It would be best if he could lure the palace master over. Vital qi suddenly rose under his feet as he stepped on the mystic handle and headed towards the Zhongzhen Front Range. After the two of them left, the disciples of the Imperial Celestial Palace surrounded the unconscious Ji Feibao with lingering fear in their eyes. Who are these two? How could they be so heavy-handed? Hurry up and inform eldest senior brother and vice palace master. Su-yi kept increasing his speed as he shuttled back and forth between the mountain peaks that were filled with the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Han Yuro gradually fell behind him. Damn it! Did this brat grow wings? He's so fast. The vital qi around Han Yuro's body surged crazily as the water attribute rose from her feet. Radiance surged as she finally managed to maintain a certain distance from Su-yi. In less than half a day, Su-yi and Han Yuro arrived at the Zhongzhen Front Range. On the mountain peak there was a huge yin-yang plaza. It was black on the left and white on the right. In the white there was the sun and in the black there was the moon. As they overlapped, Su-yi's heaven origin demon soul instantly felt a boundless energy that transcended heaven and earth. Such powerful energy! Su-yi couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. He immediately circulated the art of driving the heavens. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth surged into his meridians and flowed continuously in his wide meridians. Finally, it merged with the heaven origin demon soul. The art of driving the heavens also rippled with mystical runes around his body. On the other hand, in a certain meeting hall on the Zhongzhen Peak, at the head of the table was an old man in a cloud-white robe that dragged on the ground. His long gray hair was combed behind his back, and his sleeves fluttered in the wind. He had a wide forehead and a large face, and his bearing was long. The space between his brows was filled with the aura of a superior. There were 2 old men on his left and right, and there were even 17 elders below him. They were sitting upright and still as they discussed in low voices. Then this is how the soul match will be conducted. Does anyone have any objections? The gray-haired old man asked with a serious expression. Whoosh! Suddenly, a wave of boundless energy of heaven and earth surged into the hall. Everyone present was a group of experts in the cultivation of the soul, so how could they not know what had happened? They instantly stood up while a wisp of shock appeared on their aged faces. Where did such powerful soul energy come from? An elder below him spoke in a low voice. Vice Palace Master, let's leave the soul match as it is for now. Let's go out and take a look. Could it be that the Palace Master has come out of closed-door cultivation? Vice Palace Master Zhuqiu Feng's heart jerked when he thought about the Palace Master coming out of closed-door cultivation. He flicked his sleeve and said, "Let's go. Let's go take a look." Chapter 1596. Boom! There was a violent impact in the sky as the rapidly accumulating dark clouds covered the sun. The dense spirit energy in the sky was like a whale sucking in water. A pillar of water soared to the sky and poured into Su-yi's head. Su-yi, who was sitting on the ground, could feel waves of extremely dense spirit energy. They were like little snakes slithering around freely in his wide meridians. They gradually fused with the blazing Tian Yuan demon soul and nourished the depths of Su Yi's soul. Streams of warm energy spread around the Tian Yuan demon soul, and Su Yi immediately felt refreshed. The spirit energy here, together with the grand formation of the plaza, can actually nourish the soul. Su Yi was overjoyed. Looking at the strange phenomenon in the sky, Han Yuro's eyes widened in confusion. Isn't this guy's first time at the Heavenly Palace? How can he know the Heavenly Palace art and attract the remnant soul of the Flood Dragon God? This guy's aura seems to be a bit similar to Father's. Too magical. Han Yuro stared at Su Yi, endless thoughts piling up in her mind like pieces of paper, causing her curiosity towards Su Yi to reach a new height. It seemed that the greatest gain from this trip to the Imperial Celestial Palace was Su Yi, Han Yuro thought to herself. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Han Yuro raised her eyes and shook the front peak. There were constantly figures shuttling around the palace. Some young disciples of the Heavenly Palace began to gather in front of the palace. Countless cracks began to appear on the white jade floor. The onlookers didn't dare to step forward after seeing the strange phenomenon in the sky. What is going on? Why is there such a strange phenomenon in the plaza? Is the palace lord back? No, look, there's someone there. Who is that? How can he have such a powerful soul? Bang, bang. More and more dark clouds appeared, and the sound of thunder resounded in the sky. It was like a heavy thunder hammer falling from the 9 heavens, bombarding Su Yi's surroundings. All kinds of remnant souls surrounded Su Yi. Beast shadows were everywhere, and their roars were like thunder. The 4 Yuan Qi attributes of earth, wood, water and fire surged around Su Yi's body like a divine ring. His aura was extremely intense, and the remnant souls that were drawn out correspondingly were the Blackwood Heavenly Colt, the fire-scaled poisonous scorpion, the water spirit 9-horned rhinoceros, and the earth shell turtle. 4 kinds of soul remnants surged out, bringing with them rays of bright light. They rapidly condensed into a vast energy space in the sky. Boundless soul pressure filled the space, echoing with the rumbling sound of wind and thunder, spreading into the distance. In front of Zhongzhen Peak, a tall and slender young man in his late 20s was holding a horsetail whisk. His eyes were like the cold stars, and his curved eyebrows were like sharp swords. He stood like an orchid tree, and his teeth were as white as the moon. Looking at the strange phenomenon in front of him, he gradually frowned. There was a slightly younger person standing behind him, and he said respectfully to the young man in front of him, "Eldest senior brother, do you want me to kill him?" It turned out that the young man on the roof was the eldest disciple of the Heavenly Palace, Jun Haotian. He said coldly as he looked at Su Yi, whose divine ring was rippling in the distance. To be able to come here, there are 2 reasons. Firstly, Ji Feibao has already failed. Secondly, he has enough courage and ability. With such ability, the master who is having a meeting in the hall will definitely not sit by and do nothing. Why should we steal the limelight? If you survive this calamity and want to destroy him, do it in the Soul Tournament. He will also participate in the Soul Tournament? He is not from the Heavenly Palace. Jin Qianyun, who was behind him, was puzzled. Old Gyue has always been on bad terms with Master. Don't forget that the Central Region still has a quota. Don't you think that Su Yi's timing is too coincidental? Jin Qianyun nodded deeply and looked at the hall. More than 10 figures flew out. As their aura surged, the sky changed color again. The dark clouds dissipated, and the strange phenomenon disappeared. The left palace master is here. And all the experts and elders. Sigh, this kid is probably doomed. Roar. The 4 remnant souls instantly dissipated. The majestic chi of heaven and earth that had just been activated, along with a terrifying aura of primordial chi, fiercely rushed into the sky, creating a few continuous sounds of impact. Bang, bang, bang. The remnant energy that fell down once again caused the entire square to ripple like a tidal wave. At this time, in a deep place behind the peak of the central region, Li Shiran and Ah Chu were waiting outside. The results of the test just now made the two of them very excited. The two of them kept chatting with each other with their faces flushed red. They did not care about the strange phenomenon in the front peak at all. And in the deep place, Gyue, who was in his 80s, was still respectfully bowing to a noble figure. From the view of her back, the woman's curves were perfect, and the skin on her back that was slightly exposed was as smooth as cream. It was extremely tempting, and between her makeup and jade-like makeup, one could see that she was a celestial beauty, like a fairy from the heavens. Gyue said, "Palace Master, it seems that the person we have been waiting for so many years should be him. To be able to activate the remnant soul of the White Flood Dragon God and directly learn the art of controlling the heavens, is it really him this time?" A faint female voice came out. It was very pleasant to listen to, and it was full of firmness. It was obvious that she had an extremely profound soul ability. There is movement at the peak. Elder Gyue, please go and take a look. You must make sure that he enters the Heavens Controlling Soul competition. I want to see him in person. Is his family? Gyue asked tentatively. The woman's voice was loud and clear, like an orchid in an empty valley, very pleasant to the ear. The two little guys outside are competing with him. If their performance is not good enough, not to mention the Su family, these two little guys will disappear together. Whoosh! Suddenly, a piece of jade flew out from the woman's chest and drew an arc in the air before landing in the hands of Gyue. Gyue looked at it and his eyes lit up. The woman's words just now made Gyue's heart skip a beat. He immediately lowered his body and said, "This old man knows. This old man will take his leave." Then Gyue quickly turned and left. His footsteps were fast and powerful, as if he was riding the wind. However, his silver-white eyebrows were wrinkled. "Excellent? How do you define this? Even that person only got first place twice." Dong dong. Elder Gyue asked Li Shiran and Ah Chu to wait for a moment. Looking at the strange phenomenon in the distance, the majestic heaven and earth spirit chi surging, he couldn't help but shake his head. This little guy, he really makes a lot of noise wherever he goes. I have to make sure that you don't die first. The Yuan Qi under his feet suddenly rose, and the Yuan Qi above the void swept through the sky. The invisible aura collapsed the sky. Elder Gyue's figure was already 100 feet away. Zhongzhen front peak, on the square. Su-yi slightly opened his eyes. The sudden disappearance of the spirit chi caused the heaven-origin demon soul in his heart to tremble. The art of controlling the heavens was quickly condensed, and his hand seals were constantly changing. After adjusting his breath for a while, he returned to normal. Chapter 1597. Suddenly, Su-yi opened his eyes while a strand of foul air was exhaled from his throat, whereas Han Yuro had already been suppressed to the point of gasping for breath by the soul energy of an expert, and she gazed at Su-yi. "You're making so many people accompany you in your cultivation. You're quite ostentatious." When he heard this, Su-yi was able to see 20 experts lined up in a row in the sky before him, and every single one of them were glaring fiercely at him with bewilderment on their faces. Under the guidance of a shapeless aura, soul energy was vast and deep like the depths of the ocean, causing the temperature in the surroundings to drop abruptly while the air seemed to have frozen. Su-yi flipped over and restrained his aura slightly before circulating the Origin's supreme technique to envelop Hanuro. At this moment, she was already slightly powerless. He moved closer to Hanuro and said, "When did these people arrive? They've been here for a while, yet not a single one of them dared to come forward. All of them are cowards." After that, Hanuro felt much more relaxed and sent a voice transmission with a smile on her face. The cloud-striped old man at the center had white hair on his temples, and he gazed coldly at Sui as he said coldly, "Who's there? How dare you enter my sect guarding grand formation and disturb the spirit energy of my Heaven Drive River?" Sui stood up slightly and said in a low voice to the group of people in the sky that emanated imposing auras, "I'm Sui." He mustered up all his strength to speak, and it instantly caused waves of fluctuations to sweep through the sky, causing the expressions of Zhuqiu Feng and the other two Vice Palace Masters to change slightly. "Kid, you actually possess such a thick aura. You actually didn't yield under such powerful pressure from us. The quality of your soul is extremely good." Zhuqiu Feng carefully sized up Sui and noticed that not only did Sui's expression remain unchanged, his aura was powerful like a surging river, and his bright and deep eyes were filled with killing intent and boundless rage. Zhuqiu Feng cleared his throat before he raised his gaze, and his aged voice sounded out faintly. "Kid, do you know your crime of trespassing into my Heaven Drive Palace?" Sui scratched his ear and seemed to be rather impatient as he said, "What crime? What crime do you think I am guilty of?" After that, Sui's skyward transformation steps rose up from beneath his feet. Fire element energy coiled and sprayed out, and it emanated a monstrous and dazzling glow that was like a flaming dragon. Gradually, Sui's figure rose up to the same height as Zhuqiu Feng. "How dare you? You're not a disciple of my Heavenly Command Palace, yet you've implicated my Central State Branch Palace and the Sacred Mountain, disturbing my Mountain Guardian Flood Dragon God's cultivation, and you still dare to spout nonsense here." The light in Zhuqiu Feng's eyes skyrocketed as the energy in his body erupted with soul energy and blasted explosively towards Sui. Along the way, the space directly cracked open, and numerous spatial ripples shook out like ripples. Bang! Sui didn't show weakness as well. The fierce energy in his body surged explosively, causing peerless ripples of light to instantly flow as hand seals condensed out like bolts of lightning, and an extremely enormous soul energy that carried a terrifying soul aura undulated out and covered the heavens and the earth as it enveloped down towards Zhuqiu Feng. Boom! The heavenly origin demon's soul instantly dimmed down greatly, and a fishy smell sprayed out from its chest as it retreated explosively in midair for a few steps before barely stopping. On the other hand, Zhuqiu Feng flicked his sleeve, and Sui's soul energy was instantly dispersed completely. Swoosh! The gazes of everyone present converged onto Sui. If it was an ordinary person, their soul would have collapsed from the peerless soul energy from before, yet Sui was actually able to go head-on against Vice Palace Master Zhuqiu Feng with a strength at the early third rank. Every single one of the 10+ experts and elders by his side were experts in soul control, and they couldn't help but nod to themselves in praise. This kid's bones and tendons are extraordinarily good, and his soul is heaven-defying. If he's able to enter my Heavenly Command Palace, then it can be considered as a good fortune. A divine light flashed in the eyes of Vice Palace Master Wu Kuan, and he moved closer to Zhuqiu Feng's ear and said, "Left Palace Master, this kid has a ruthless character. If we don't subdue him today, then he'll use the name of the Heavenly Command Palace in the future, and that would be extremely bad." On the other hand, the other Vice Palace Master, Qing Gaoming, said in a light voice, "Left Palace Master, he seems to be using our Heavenly Command technique." When he focused his gaze and looked carefully, Zhuqiu Feng was able to sense the aura of the Heavenly Command Palace on Sui, and he shouted furiously, "Kid, where did you cultivate the Heavenly Command technique from?" Han Yuro had a surprised expression when she heard this, and she turned to look at Sui and said in a light voice, "What? You're cultivating the Heavenly Command technique?" Sui had always wondered if the Heavenly Command Palace and the Heavenly Command technique were closely related, and now it would seem like his guess was absolutely correct. However, Sui knew that the old man beneath the cliff had taught him, and based on Zhuqiu Feng's appearance, It seemed like the old man wasn't a good thing for them, so he definitely couldn't expose his senior's whereabouts. I don't know what you're talking about. If you want to know something, then ask your palace master to come out and ask me. Sui spoke with a frown. At this moment, he circulated the Origin Supreme technique, Heavenly Demon Scripture, and Heavenly Command technique at the same time, causing his soul energy to be like a blazing sun that emitted a scorching glow and caused numerous ripples to form. On the roof tiles in the distance, Jun Haotian and Jin Qianyun frowned at the same time, and Jin Qianyun said in a light voice, "This bastard is too shameless. He stole our Heavenly Command technique, and even wants to barge into the Heavenly Command Palace. I really don't know who gave him the courage." On the other hand, a trace of hesitation flashed on Jun Haotian's calm face, and the space between his brows was filled with coldness. He raised his eyes and continued watching while he muttered, "Did he really steal it? Qianyun, if you stole the Heavenly Command technique, would you be able to use it as smoothly as he did?" Jin Qianyun scratched his head and puckered his lips. "All right, I admit that he's very formidable indeed. Even though he's only at the early third rank, his potential is enormous. He's a very formidable opponent." The corners of Jun Haotian's mouth twitched slightly, and he continued looking ahead and said, "Then let's continue watching. The show is about to begin." As Cheng Gaoming and Wu Kuan looked at Su Yi's awe-inspiring appearance and his figure that was slightly slanted due to the heavy injury from before, they felt that he was very familiar. "Left Palace Master, does this person look like that person?" Zhuoqiu Feng's eyes spun as he instantly gasped and spoke loudly. "Shameless kid. Since you're of unknown origin, I'll deal with you today." Bang! With a loud shout, Zhuoqiu Feng's figure condensed, and a terrifying soul attack instantly erupted. Terrifying energy ripples spread out and swept out, and it directly shattered the space beneath him as easily as crushing dry weeds. In an instant, the air was like a turbid wave that charged towards Su-yi. "Su-yi, watch out!" This was no small matter, and Su-yi was absolutely unable to resist it. Han Yuro charged forward and circulated her origin energy to use her body to resist the attack that was like a storm. "No!" Su-yi's eyes almost split apart as he roared explosively. In an instant, his figure charged out like a bolt of lightning. He turned around in midair and instantly used his back to face Han Yuro, and he hugged her tightly and completely protected her. Han Yuro's aura instantly weakened when she entered his embrace, and the soul attack from before instantly caused her spirit to become dispirited. Chapter 1598. Su-yi turned around, and his eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. However, an aged figure stood before him and easily dispersed the attack from before. The entire sky cleared up once more, and the soul pressure that filled the sky instantly eased up greatly. "Zhuoqiu Feng, how audacious of you! Are you trying to violate the rules left behind by your ancestors by killing a heaven-rank soul rider master of Command Palace?" It was precisely Elder Gyue who'd arrived. Elder Gyue's brows knit together tightly while the energy around him surged explosively. His mid-fifth rank cultivation surged with all his might, causing spatial ripples to surge once more and sweep towards the distance. When Zhuoqiu Feng and all the other experts and elders saw this person clearly, their expressions instantly changed, and some of the experts and elders even shut their mouths tightly because Elder Gu Yu's reputation was renowned throughout the Heavenly Command Palace. As one of the 10 vassals of Command Palace, Elder Gyue was on equal footing with the Vice Palace Master. His strength was an extremely formidable existence in Command Palace, and coupled with his fiery temper when he was young, everyone was shocked when they saw Elder Gyue act like this. Elder Gyue has come to cause trouble. His rage from being exempted is finally about to erupt. Command Palace is going to be bustling now. Look! The spectators whispered in discussion while looking anxiously at the battle between the experts of Command Palace. This was a rare spectacle. It's the first time I've seen Elder Guo lose his temper, and I didn't see him so furious even when he was exempted. The distant Jin Qianyun was extremely surprised and spoke softly. Jun Haotian's slender finger brushed past his chin as he gazed at the changes in the situation while pondering slightly, and he remained silent. Guo, you're not an elder anymore. Don't meddle in the business of others. Zhuqiu Feng spoke coldly. Guo roared with laughter when he heard this, and his voice was like a bell that drifted through the grand formation on the square. The disciples of Command Palace at the side all closed their ears and revealed bitter expressions. Zhuqiu Feng, even though I'm not an elder, I'm still an elder of the Heavenly Drive Palace. If you want to kill a heaven-rank soul rider master, then step over my dead body. Zhuqiu Feng was instantly infuriated. His beard stood on end while flames of rage arose between his brows, and he shouted. Not to mention the matter of him implicating the Heavenly Drive Palace, merely the matter of him disturbing the Flood Dragon God's cultivation and secretly learning the Heavenly Drive technique is sufficient to tear him into pieces. You can ask him yourself if he is orthodox or not. Guo narrowed his eyes and turned around. He looked at Su Yi and asked, Sect Master Su, where did you get this art of driving the heavens? Su Yi retracted his yuan qi and looked at Elder Guo. Without hiding anything, he sighed and said, Senior, what I have learned is indeed the art of controlling the heavens, but I cannot tell you where I learned it from. As for whether it's orthodox or not, I'm afraid yours can't be considered orthodox either, right? Everyone burst into laughter after hearing this. Someone dared to say that the driving scripture of the Driving Heavens Palace wasn't orthodox? Wasn't this the biggest joke in the world? All of you shut your mouths. All of you said he disturbed the Flood Dragon God, so go disturb him as well. If the Flood Dragon God pays any attention to all of you, then I'll leave right away. Palace Master Guo's aged voice spread out faintly, and a shapeless aura stretched out in the sky. The bustling square was instantly covered in an extremely icy cold aura, and it directly caused the expressions of everyone to change. The White Flood Dragon God had always been absorbing the spirit energy of the heavens and the earth at the entrance of the Cloud Prefecture, and its strength was extremely formidable. It had never been concerned with the world, so no one knew how Su Yi had offended it, and many people hadn't even seen it before. Looks like this old fellow is bound to protect this person today. Wu Kun and Qing Gaoming glanced at each other and spoke via voice transmission. How could Zhuqiu Feng not know? He'd caused trouble for Zhuqiu Feng numerous times, and he'd been refuted by Elder Guo with a few words. Zhuqiu Feng's face turned ashen, and it was completely gloomy and icy cold. Guo, don't cause trouble here. If he thinks my art of controlling the heavens is unorthodox, then let my art of controlling the heavens meet this young brother's orthodox art of controlling the heavens. The surrounding crowd of spectators discussed animatedly, and many of them were extremely surprised. The Vice Palace Master wants to seize this opportunity to kill Su Yi. Something seems to be off. Su Yi's art of controlling the heavens is indeed slightly different from ours. Elder Guo has fallen into the Vice Palace Master's trap. If you want face, then feel free to come at me. Guo didn't even raise his eyelids as he grunted coldly, and then he flicked his sleeve. Instantly, numerous ripples arose in space. Senior Guo, It's fine, do what you want to do. I supported you in the past, and I'll still support you today. Guo, I've tolerated you many times out of consideration for the fact that you were once an elder. You want to take him away? You don't have to give me an explanation, you just have to give the entire Heaven's Controlling Palace and all the disciples of Heaven's Controlling Palace that were injured by him. Zhuqiu Feng spoke with hatred. Fei Bao. Zhuqiu Feng was extremely vicious to kill with a borrowed knife. Wu Kuan instantly recalled that Ji Feibao had gone to Linghui Peak to capture Su Yi and hadn't returned after so long, so Ji Feibao had definitely fallen into a trap. Su Yi, why haven't I, Feibao, returned after so long? Su Yi's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at Wu Kuan, and he said indifferently, "Don't blame others for being inferior. I'll kill you." The Heavens Controlling Palace's sole competition was about to begin. Now, something had happened to Ji Feibao, and he couldn't participate. How great of a loss was this? Zhuqiu Feng was already infuriated, and he gave Wu Kuan a signal with his eyes. Wu Kuan shouted loudly as his hand seals instantly changed. Instantly, palm-sized lights converged, and then a flowing light flashed before the ancient bell in his hand transformed into a few 100-meter-long waterfall that circled in the sky. How presumptuous! Wu Kuan, you think you can? Guiyue shouted with a grim voice. As soon as the ancient bell appeared, numerous ancient auras instantly suffused the sky, and everyone in the surroundings felt absolute pressure. Shit! It's Palace Master Wu Kuan's Soul Dao artifact, the Soul Annihilation Bell. Everyone present was shocked in their hearts when they saw the Soul Annihilation Bell. Palace Master Wu has actually taken out such a formidable weapon, and he's determined to fight until the end. Exactly what ability does Su Yi possess to make the Palace Masters and Elders fight like this? Jin Qianyun's eyes almost fell to the ground, and he was extremely puzzled. On the other hand, the corners of Jun Haotian's mouth curled into a light smile instead, and he understood clearly in his heart. It seemed to be a fight between Su Yi, yet it was actually a fight between a few old fellows. To put it bluntly, it was a fight between the Vice Palace Master and the Palace Master. Since he'd entered the palace until now, the Heavens Controlling Palace had been managed by his master, Zhuqiu Feng, and as time passed, everyone had forgotten the existence of the Palace Master. But the old fellows still considered themselves as the orthodox members of the Heavens Controlling Palace, and they supported the Palace Master that was illusory and didn't care about important matters. Stomp! Wu Kuan, even you have come to seek death! Guiyue shouted angrily. Subsequently, the buzzing sound of the ancient bell filled the sky as it revolved, and it carried an all-pervasive soul attack that instantly struck everyone. Everyone present circulated the Heavens Controlling technique and started to resist the Vice Palace Master's soul attack. Chapter 1599. The sound of the bell instantly swept through the square, and those with low cultivations were instantly affected. Blood sprayed from their mouths as their bodies were instantly blasted back, and their faces were ghastly pale. The soul sound wave reverberated in the air, and it rumbled without end. Su Yi's heart shook, and Han Yuro, who was in his embrace, frowned tightly. She obviously felt uncomfortable, and she hurriedly utilized the Heaven Control Art and Origin Supreme technique to isolate the sound wave. Bang! Su Yi looked at Wu Kuan, who had an evil smile, and his gaze sank. When he was about to fight with all his might, Guiyue's energy barrier enveloped the air before him, and it protected Su Yi and Han Yuro behind him. At the same time, a white glow surged out from Guiyue's hand and spread out. The pressure on Su Yi instantly vanished, and the formidable soul sound wave attack transformed into nothingness. His robe fluttered. Water attribute energy that covered the sky instantly converged and enveloped the sky, and along with numerous strange hand seals condensing in his hand, the water attribute energy in the sky grew more and more, and the energy covered the heavens and the earth. The water energy collided tightly with Wu Kuan's soul annihilation bell in midair, and the majestic water dragon roar transformed into an enormous sonic boom that shook the ripples in the sky apart. The enormous ripples were like the waves of a tsunami, and they forcefully shattered open spatial rifts. In an instant, the sound of the bell resonated, and the heavens and the earth trembled. Bang! Two sonic booms collided with each other, and an extremely ear-piercing and unpleasant sound erupted, and it caused one's ears to go numb. The sound wave collided, and the space was torn apart layer by layer. A small rift was formed, and it was instantly covered by dense spirit energy. At a low altitude, the space trembled, and the ear-piercing sound instantly vanished. Gyue took 2 steps back, whereas Wu Kuan continuously took over 10 steps back before he could stop himself. His robe trembled slightly, and a monstrous aura spread out from his body. Shapeless wind attribute energy enveloped his body, and his entire body emitted a peerlessly overbearing aura. How could Elder Gyue not know Su Yi's temper and Wu Kuan's character? The enmity between them would probably be completely formed from today onward. As the Vice Palace Master, Zhuqiu Feng didn't do anything during these years, and he wholeheartedly wanted to ascend to the position. However, he was extremely cautious and only knew how to fight among himself. He didn't have the graceful bearing of the Heaven Control Palace from all those years. Gyue, who came out from the depths, already knew what the Palace Master meant. Even if Su Yi wasn't a disciple of the Palace Master, with the Palace Master's words, Gyue would protect Su Yi today no matter what. Instantly, the entire central Quake Peak was filled with shouts that were like a tsunami, and some disciples had excited expressions while their faces flushed red. During the days that Zhuqiu Feng was in charge of the Heaven Rider Palace, he was biased towards his personal disciple in everything, and he appointed people based on nepotism and caused great strife between factions. The originally united Heaven Rider Palace had become a mess since a long time ago. As he looked at this group of people that ruined the atmosphere of the Heaven Rider Palace, Elder Gyue's expression was cold and indifferent as he said indifferently, "Zhuqiu Feng, Wu Kuan, Qing Gaoming, heed my orders. The Heaven Rider Soul Tournament is at hand, and the Palace Master has ordered that no one is allowed to obstruct the Heaven Rider Soul Tournament. Otherwise, you'll be dealt with according to the rules of the palace." After that, Elder Gyue looked at the lead elder. He was a thin, tall, and extremely capable old man, and at this moment, his face was covered in large beads of sweat as he said furiously, "Is the Iron Rules Hall under your command?" "Elder Gyue, the Iron Rules Hall has been merged under my command, and it hasn't been used for a long time." Zhuqiu Feng's expression instantly became extremely embarrassed, and he coughed repeatedly to indicate that he shouldn't speak any further. The Heaven Rider Soul Tournament is at hand, so the Iron Rules Hall has been reactivated. All the systems of the Heaven Rider Palace have been restored to how they were in the past. It's fine for an old man like me, but if you infuriate the Palace Master, then all of you can think about it yourselves. Shut up, shut up. At this moment, the expressions of the 20 top experts had turned ashen, and they didn't dare speak loudly because Gyue's words were like a mountain that pressed down heavily upon their hearts. After looking around at everyone, there were indeed some who were happy and some who were sad. On the roof, Jun Haotian and Jin Qianyun were frowning. Just as Jin Qianyun was about to speak, Jun Haotian gestured for him to keep quiet and said in a deep voice, "Let's go back first." At this moment, the entire place was extremely quiet, and the sound of flapping wings could be heard as the birds flew past. Gyue turned around and flew to Su Yi's side, and his eyes were filled with admiration for Su Yi. "Good lad. You can still remain calm in such a situation and under such a powerful soul force." Su Yi shook his head and smiled bitterly. If it wasn't for the heavenly origin demon soul, he would have died on the spot, and he was in urgent need of treatment right now. Gyue seemed to have seen through Su Yi's injuries and said softly, "Let's go. The Palace Master has already agreed to your request. This little girl's injuries aren't light either. Let's return to Lingyue Peak first." As soon as he finished speaking, a vortex arose beneath Gyue's feet, and a peerlessly powerful wave directly carried Su Yi and Han Yuro towards Lingyue Peak. Instantly, the entire square was in an uproar. There were gloomy gazes in the crowd, and there were all sorts of people who were overjoyed, whereas Shuchu Feng, Wu Kuan, and the others were filled with killing intent. Chapter 1600. Above the veil of night, the moonlight was clear. The golden sun from before that was extraordinarily intense had already vanished, and the blood-red clouds cast by the setting sun had transformed into an inky blue color along with the sun and moon. The mountain was covered in fine clouds. This was Su Yi's first night at Heaven Drive Creek. The misty sky was suffused with gentle moonlight, and it passed through the gaps between the trees and formed numerous thick and thin pillars of light that illuminated the distant forest that was covered in mist. As he sat high up and listened to the sound of the mountain breeze, Su Yi finished circulating the Origin Supreme technique, and then he spat out a long mouthful of foul air. The palm strike that Shuchu Feng struck him with earlier had almost completely recovered now. Even though it was a soul attack, its formidable force wasn't something that an ordinary cultivator could endure. Whoosh! He withdrew his hand seals, and the energy in his body was suffused within the dense spirit energy of the heavens and the earth, and it instantly drifted far away. On the other hand, the extremely thick and wide divine soul veins within his body were surging with peerless spirit energy, and his void divine ocean was already filled to the brim. As his eyes recovered their clarity, Su Yi couldn't help but be slightly dazed as he gazed at the mountain clouds that suffused the air before him. In the sky, the fragrance of the mountains drifted in spirals, and the halo of light that passed through the leaves was extremely like a peerlessly beautiful celestial shadow. For a time, Su Yi was actually infatuated by it, and it just happened to be like the lonely and elegant shadow within the cave. Jing, where exactly are you? Su Yi muttered lightly, and it was like a dream. Since she left without saying goodbye that day, Su Yi's heart had always been filled with that graceful figure. When she was by his side, Su Yi always felt that Yunjing was noisy, and he was annoyed that she was a stupid little girl that didn't know etiquette. Later on, he noticed that Yunjing was only like Su Yi. Whereas towards others or people that she didn't like, she was resolute and merciless, and this gave Su Yi a sense of security and belonging that he hadn't felt for a long time. Su Yi missed her greatly in his heart when she suddenly left. The night sky was dim, and Su Yi's heart instantly seemed to have sunk to the bottom of the valley. Is this the feeling of having someone in your heart? Having lived 2 lives, Su Yi's temperament had become even more tenacious. However, when love was at stake, even heroes would feel sad. Regardless of whether it was Lu Ruoxi or Ling Qianxue, none of them could replace Yunjing. Lu Ruoxi was the love of Su Yi when he was young, Ling Qianxue was the companion of Su Yi when he was mature, and Yunjing was the romantic partner of Su Yi when he was in love for the first time. Every one of them was sincere and beautiful, leaving an indelible mark in Su Yi's heart. Could it be that he and Yunjing were destined to be people from 2 different worlds? What Su Yi didn't understand was, then, what was that dream? Bye-bye. Su Yi didn't notice that in the forest far away from Heavenly Drive Creek, there was also a beautiful figure in the depths of the forest, moving agilely and drifting far away. I see that sect master Su has something on his mind. An old voice faintly came from behind. Old man Guo's footsteps were steady like that of an immortal. In just a moment, he had arrived beside Su Yi. The night wind blew up old man Guo's elegant silver hair. His hale and hearty eyes revealed a profound and mysterious aura as if he had seen through the vicissitudes of life. He was like a 1,000-year-old ancient well, quiet and distant. Senior Guo, I've troubled you again today. Su Yi sighed softly. Old man Guo stared at the distant sky without blinking. He stroked his beard and said, "Between you and me, calling it trouble is treating me as an outsider. Just like this moonlight that can overturn the sky, can you stop it from shining just because you hate it?" Senior's meaning is? Su Yi seemed to have understood something. Never doubt your own choice. This old man knows that you have a lot of secrets, but it is because of these secrets that you are now. Since you have stepped onto this path, work hard to walk down it. Forward is a cliff, backward is a valley. You should soar into the sky and amaze the world with a single cry. Boom! Su Yi's heart trembled as he felt enlightened. He then stood up solemnly and bowed to Old Man Gu. I've learned. Even if the king of hell is in charge, I must still kill the gods. Whether it was Yunjing, the upcoming Heavenly Drive Soul competition, or the Heavenly Wind ranking competition, since he had made his choice, he couldn't regret it. Since he had made his choice, he had to walk down it bravely. If he missed Yunjing, he had to work hard to find her. If he wanted to flatten the holy mountain, he had to cultivate diligently without any distractions. One day, he would be able to reach the peak of the martial path and become the ruler of all time. Sui looked at the scenery in front of him and suddenly felt his heart expand. He didn't feel as sluggish as before, and his heroic spirit erupted like a volcano. Sect Master Su, for you to be able to have such achievements, you must have experienced unimaginable hardship. You must have had a fortuitous encounter that others would never have in their lifetime. This old man is clear in his heart, but there are some things that are better to be clear about. Old Man Gue stroked his beard lightly and said, Senior, what are you referring to? I don't care where your art of driving the heavens came from, but since the palace master has agreed to let you participate, she must have her own reasons. I hope that you can tell me the truth when the time comes. Don't make things difficult for this old man. It's just that. Su Yi was in a difficult position. If the Heavenly Drive Palace was harmless to the senior in danger, Su Yi would naturally tell him everything. As if he could see Su Yi's hesitation, Old Man Gue continued, The Heavenly Drive Palace is named after driving the heavens, which means that this technique existed when the palace was built. It's not orthodox, but I believe that Sect Master Su will be able to tell. Senior Gue, then do you have any experts from the Heavenly Drive Palace who are wandering outside? Su Yi asked tentatively. Then I'll let the palace master talk to you in detail. Gue's calm face flashed with a trace of undetectable surprise, but it was quickly concealed. I wonder when the Heavenly Drive Soul competition will start? Su Yi was filled with curiosity about the upcoming Heavenly Drive Soul competition, so he asked softly. Old Man Gue laughed and said faintly, You're finally concerned about the Heavenly Drive Soul competition. It will officially start 3 days later, and it will still be held at the peak before the earthquake. What's the result of Ran and Ah Chu's test? Su Yi recalled that Old Man Gue took them to test the quality of their souls, and asked immediately. Old Man Gue was extremely satisfied at the mention of the 2 Li family disciples, and he nodded slightly. These 2 children have extremely high comprehension abilities, and their talents are even more outstanding. Of the siblings, Ran has a half-step heavenly soul, and Ah Chu has a heavenly soul. The Li family disciples live up to their reputation. They're really talented children. Su Yi couldn't help but be overjoyed. Sure enough, it was exactly as he had guessed. His eyes were filled with surprise as he continued. Then can the 2 of them become Heavenly Drive Soul Masters? Gue shook his head and said softly, Although a half-step Heavenly Soul can also become a Heavenly Drive Soul Master, compared to Ah Chu, Ran obviously expends more energy on the path of a Heavenly Drive Soul Master. On the path of cultivation, the most important thing is to concentrate and not look left and right. Fortunately, Ran has the foundation of martial arts, and she has the fire and wood attribute. This old man recommends that she become an alchemist. If she works hard on cultivation, she can also become famous in the world, and become a pill god in the future. Chapter 1601. Hearing this, Su Yi couldn't help but nod. He couldn't help but feel happy. This was definitely the best ending for the siblings. It was enough to comfort the ancestors of the Li family. Li Shiran was gentle and kind by nature. She devoted herself to cultivating pill recipes and healing the world. It was the best for Li Shiran to achieve the Bodhi bright mirror heart. As for Chu, he had such a tenacious character and willpower at such a young age. As long as he cultivated patiently and studied hard in the heavenly palace, he would definitely become a powerful soul-controlling master with his comprehension ability and revive the Li family. There was hope in front of him. Good, this result couldn't be better. However, I have a presumptuous request. Su Yi was a little embarrassed. This time, he came in to bring the Li siblings to be apprenticed to the Yutian palace. But unfortunately, after going through a lot of twists and turns, he offended all the people he should offend. Even if the palace master didn't blame him, it would be difficult to find a master who would dare to accept them. These two children are simple and kind by nature. If you didn't bring them here, I'm afraid I wouldn't have met them. This is fate. I'm willing to accept them as my disciples. Elder Guiue's eyes contained deep meaning. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yi's eyes lit up. He was pleasantly surprised and his starry eyes were full of gratitude. In the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea, Elder Guiue was also a peerless expert of the soul controller lineage. To be able to be apprenticed to him, the Li siblings were really lucky. Speaking of which, you're also very strange. You didn't join the Yutian palace, but you stuffed them in. What do you think? Have you changed your mind now? Su Yi smiled embarrassedly and shook his head slightly. He said apologetically, I'm used to wandering around the world. The responsibility of the Yutian palace is too great. I'm afraid I can't adapt. Guiue rolled his eyes at Su Yi. His kind and amiable face was full of smiles. He knew that he couldn't persuade Su Yi, but there was someone who could. Guiue believed that Su Yi would have a new idea at that time. Let's go. Go take a look at my 2 good disciples. While we're at it, let's talk about the Heavenly Soul competition. With light steps, Su Yi followed Old Man Guiue to the main hall. The simple and unadorned house was brightly lit. The Li siblings had been waiting in the house for a long time. When they saw Su Yi, they immediately went up to greet him. They chattered excitedly with their faces flushed red. All right. Senior Guiue has already told me about you too. Now listen to me. I have something that will affect your entire lives. Su Yi said mysteriously. Her eyes were full of smiles. Li Shiran and Ah Chu were both startled. They had just entered Yutian Palace. How could it be related to marriage? Ah Chu scratched her head and said with a chuckle, Brother Su, did you take a fancy to a girl? I still want to become a soul controller, so I have to clear my heart and restrain my desires. Don't mess around. Hearing this, Li Shiran couldn't help but smile. She patted Ah Chu and rebuked, Ah Chu, listen to Brother Su. Don't interrupt. Ah Chu's innocent words made Su Yi and Guiue laugh. Then, Su Yi conveyed to them that Guiue intended to accept disciples. The 2 of them were stunned on the spot. Li Shiran's eyes were already filled with tears, while Ah Chu was so excited that she couldn't speak. Her eyes were wide open. Su Yi gently shook in front of her and said, Hey, Ah Chu, what's wrong with you? Are you too happy to speak? Su Yi said with a smile. Plop! Li Shiran and Ah Chu knelt on the ground at the same time. No matter how Su Yi pulled them, they couldn't get up. Guiue shook his head gently behind them and said, Sect Master Su, this is the goodwill of the 2 children. It's not good if you refuse. Su Yi sighed helplessly and said faintly, You don't have to do this. We've helped each other, and I've also received a lot of benefits from your Li family. Bang bang bang. The siblings first kowtowed 3 times to Old Man Guiue to thank him for his kindness. She then kowtowed to Su Yi a few more times, her eyes glistening with tears. Li Shiran sobbed, Big Brother Su, the two of us really can't repay your kindness. You're not only the fated person of the Li family, but also our great benefactor. Ah! Old man Gue raised his eyes and walked to Li Shiran. He said to the two, "Why can't you repay it? You can repay your kindness in the Heavenly Soul competition." Ah Chu's tears stained his clothes as he said in a sobbing voice, Master, but we've just entered the sect and have little experience. How can we help Brother Su?" Gue slowly helped the two of them up and comforted Li Shiran, who was still crying. He gestured for the two of them to sit down. Then, he began to speak slowly with a solemn expression. The Heavenly Soul competition is divided into 4 categories: martial arts cultivation, alchemy, weapon forging, and soul mastery. They correspond to the 4 schools of martial arts, alchemy, weapon forging, and soul mastery respectively. Since ancient times, alchemy, weapon forging, and soul mastery are poles apart. Those who can master both are blessed by the heavens. Your brother Su's eldest brother is an outstanding talent. Brother Wu Qing. Su Yi suddenly thought of the drunken but extremely talented Merciless West, whose name had shaken the Chaos region for a long time. Sure Ran, focus on alchemy in the future and you'll definitely achieve something. Changchu's soul quality is excellent, and his soul mastery will definitely be carried forward. In this soul mastery competition, Sure Ran, you'll participate in the alchemy competition, and Ah Chu will participate in the soul mastery competition. Hearing this, Su Yi frowned and said anxiously, "Senior, soul quality isn't equal to combat power. The two of them have just stepped out. How can they win the competition?" Immediately, Old Man Gue gave Su Yi a look of approval and nodded. "Although that's the case, do you remember what I told you before? In order to be fair, the 10 vassals will sponsor people to make up for the weak teams?" "I remember. Is it about soul quality?" Su Yi was suddenly enlightened. Everyone had a different soul quality. Some might have a half-step heaven rank soul, while others might have a heaven rank soul. If they were both at the beginning of rank 4, they might be at a disadvantage because of their innate soul quality. In this way, it would be hard to tell how much progress the elder and the student had made within 3 years. The biggest purpose of the Heavenly Soul competition was to smooth out the innate advantages as much as possible and to test the effort of each disciple and the teaching results of the Heavenly Soul Palace. The difference between soul energy and vitality energy was that soul energy could be superimposed under the activation of the Heavenly Soul art. This was also the reason why the Heavenly Soul competition was a team competition. Guyu had a benevolent look on his face as he softly chuckled. Every team is made up of 5 people. Aside from martial cultivation, every single event has 3 participants, with one of them being the main contestant. Therefore, the arrangement of the teams is extremely particular. Please remember the domain name of this book. .com. Wonderful Book House. Com. Chapter 1602. Gue gently patted Su Yi's shoulder and said with a smile, "Since the palace master wants you to participate, I'm afraid no one will object to you being the main force. Li Shiran and Ah Chu are only contributing their soul quality." After hearing this, Su Yi immediately relaxed a lot. Li Shiran and Ah Chu's expressions eased a lot as they gradually gained confidence. Su Yi continued, "In that case, as long as we gather the highest soul quality and have one person as the main force, we will have a great chance of winning in alchemy and soul control." Elder Gue nodded gently and looked at the 3 of them with eyes full of trust. Soul control mainly depends on Sect Master Su. As long as we can provide comparable medicinal materials and utensils for alchemy and weapon refining, it will be fine. Therefore, in addition to having a high soul quality, the strength of the soul and the quality of the materials and utensils are also the key. Elder Gue said slowly. The direct disciples of the Imperial Palace must have heaven-grade souls, but not every team will have heaven-grade souls. Therefore, with 4 heaven-grade souls and a person with high soul combat power, we will have the upper hand. Sui nodded heavily. Under the dim light, his face suddenly became determined. Thinking about it carefully, he would definitely be able to get first place in martial arts. He already had candidates for alchemy and soul control. However, he didn't have a suitable candidate for the path of weapon forging. A weapon forging master needed to have fire and metal attributes, which was more difficult to find. Elder Gyue, who will participate in the weapon refining? Tian Wu will take up the role. I owe him too much over the years. He has dual talents in alchemy and weapon refining, but he is willing to run around for me. His cultivation has been delayed a lot. Suddenly, everyone present, including Sui, was shocked. There were not many merciless West people with dual identities in the world. Tian Wu was an alchemist and a weapon refiner at the same time, which meant that he must have 3 attributes. In the eyes of outsiders, he was a loser with mixed vitality, but in the eyes of cultivators, he was an excellent talent. In fact, it was the best combination of vital energy. In addition, the Tian Wu had a heaven-grade soul. He should have been a respected double prime, but now, even Ji Feibao was not as good as him. There's actually such a miraculous physique in this world. Sui couldn't help but sigh. When I found Tian Ho back then, I was also very surprised. After so many years, his current height has a lot to do with me. Old Gyue looked a little lonely when he mentioned Tian Ho. Creak. As he said this, Tian Ho and Han Yuro walked in together. Although Tian Ho was seriously injured, he was more or less fine under old man Gyue's careful treatment. Tian Ho's face was full of unswerving determination as he looked at Gyue. Master, please don't say that. Your disciple is willing to share the burden of the Imperial Heavenly Palace for you all these years. The path of cultivation is not only the cultivation of external objects, but also the cultivation of the heart. In Gyue's yellowed eyes, Tian Ho's figure gradually became clearer, and a feeling of wetness welled up. Good. It's really a blessing for me to have such a disciple. In this soul competition, I will definitely help you obtain benefits and soar in one fell swoop. Sui, who was standing at the side, also looked at Tian Ho in a new light. His initial indifference was no longer as annoying as before. Brother Tian Chong, congratulations on having a good junior brother and junior sister. Tian Ho came back to his senses and looked at Li Shiran and Ah Chu. Both of them were slightly shy. Old man Gyue stroked his beard and smiled, nodding his head in agreement. Hearing this, Tian Chong was full of excitement. He rubbed his hands and said, "That's great. With such help, and Sect Master Su, we will definitely succeed." Han Yuro, who was standing at the side, had skin whiter than snow. She had not completely recovered from Wu Kuan's soul attack. Her face was pale, and her eyes were slightly misty. She looked at Sui with a pleading gaze. "Are you feeling better? You should lie down a little more." Han Yuro shook her head stubbornly. Her eyes flashed with determination. She said slowly, "Sui, I also want to participate in the soul competition." "But you're already like this. Must you participate?" Sui was still a little worried. He did not know why Han Yuro had to participate. "Miss, are you the beloved daughter of the Boundless Sect's sect master, Han Yuro?" Gyue looked at Han Yuro carefully. He was confused and asked softly. Han Yuro's moon-like eyes flashed with surprise. She said softly, "Senior knows me?" "Ah." Old man Gyue laughed and said, "Your father and I can be considered old acquaintances. His precious daughter has come to visit. I apologize for not going out to welcome you." Everyone knew that the Boundless Sect was a terrifying monster like the Sacred Mountain. However, the difference was that the Boundless Sect was a direct lineage. The sect master's son was very likely to be the next pillar of the sect. The sacred mountain was a direct lineage. Below the holy venerate level were the holy sons and holy daughters. When old man Gyue was treating Han Yuro's injuries, he felt that the aura on her body was familiar. That was why he said that. "You're the daughter of the boundless sect master." Sui couldn't help but look at Han Yuro. I didn't tell you beforehand. I'm sorry." Suddenly, Han Yuro's bright eyes and white teeth showed a trace of embarrassment. "Miss Han is also a Heaven-tier soul controller from the Soul Competition Palace. Sect Master Su, Miss Han is the most suitable candidate for the final competition." "Really?" Sui and Han Yuro looked at old man Gyue at the same time. However, they each had their own thoughts. Han Yuro's radiant face was full of surprise, while Su Yi's brows were tightly furrowed. But Miss Han's soul is damaged. Su Yi felt that it would be more appropriate to find another Heaven-tier soul controller. Suddenly, Han Yuro tugged on Su Yi's clothes. She looked very anxious. She said weakly, "No. I can do it. Don't we still have 3 days? I can do it." "Are you sure?" Su Yi's brows were still furrowed with worry. Han Yuro nodded heavily. "That's it then. I promise I won't hold you back. Tianwu, you, me, Shiran, and Achu. The 5 of us will represent Lingyue Peak." Looking at the 5 of them, Gyue was very satisfied with each of them. He couldn't help but nod and smile. "Looks like Lingyue Peak is going to be in the limelight this year." "Ah. Sect Master Su, this old man has something to tell you. Come here for a moment." After hearing this, Su Yi's heart skipped a beat. Under everyone's gaze, the 2 of them walked to the side. Su Yi said respectfully, "Senior, is there something important?" "The Palace Master has ordered that your results must be excellent this time. Otherwise, you, Shiran, and Achu's lives will be in danger." "What?" Su Yi's eyes were ablaze with anger as he yelled, scaring the 4 people behind him. Please remember the domain name of this book. .com. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1603. When Sui heard this, he wondered which old man was spouting such nonsense. He lowered his voice and said, "What kind of logic is this? Besides, what is outstanding? Senior, please enlighten me." Sigh. Elder Gyue shook his head slightly and said, "The Palace Master has always been temperamental. This is not an exaggeration. As I said before, as long as you make the Palace Master happy, everything will be fine. But if you make the Palace Master unhappy, he will chase after you no matter where you go." After saying this, Elder Gyue paused for a moment before continuing in a low voice. Many, many years ago, there was a big shot in the palace who dominated the Imperial Palace. He only won first place in 2 of the Imperial Soul competition. That alone is enough to look down on the entire Imperial Palace. Since Sect Master Su has decided to participate in all 4 competitions, you must win at least 2 first places. Creak. Hearing this, Sui couldn't help but clench his fists tightly. His eyes were full of fighting spirit and exuberant fighting spirit. He gritted his teeth and said, "Not just 2 first places. I want all 4 first places. This nuisance of a palace master, I will teach you a lesson today." The whereabouts of his Su family members were still unknown. He didn't even know if they were with the palace master, but this bullshit palace master was starting to threaten him. For the lives of Shiran and Achu, Su Yi would fight this as a tough battle. "Good. Try your best to fight for it. In the remaining 3 days, I will let Tian Ho train Shiran and Achu. You and Miss Han should try your best to improve your soul strength in Lingyue Peak. Fight more battles and experience the existence of the soul." "Okay." Su Yi and the others answered. Then, Elder Gyue explained the details of each competition to them in detail, as well as some common methods of soul manipulation. Then, they returned to their rooms. In the antique room, Su-yi sat on the bed and began to meditate, adjusting his breath and cultivating the art of imperial soul manipulation. This was the first time that Su-yi had focused on cultivating the art of driving the heavens. While chatting with old man Gyue, Su-yi realized that his understanding of the soul was too narrow. The wonders of the soul were endless, and the seniors in the Cliff Valley did not have much time to teach him. Su-yi gradually entered a state of calmness and concentration. He sensed the location of the soul and the existence of the Yuan Qi around him. The soul was also a form of existence of energy, and it was interconnected with the Yuan Qi method. Su-yi gradually entered a state of epiphany. His aura was calm and natural, like an old monk in meditation. His body rippled with a dense divine radiance, and his aura rose unceasingly as if it had transcended the heavens and the earth. As the radiance surged, numerous mysterious runes floated into the air like coiling little snakes. They came out from the top of his head, and they were profound, unfathomable, and incomparably wonderful. Boom, boom! Wave after wave of aura gushed out of his body like a river, pushing towards the sky. The energy fluctuations could be felt even outside the room. Su-yi, Han Yuro, Li Shiran, and Ah Chu lived in a small courtyard. The courtyard was not big, but it was simple and clean. The moonlight poured down and covered the stone platform with a silvery white mist. Sigh, I don't know if I made the right choice in coming to the Palace of Driving the Heavens this time. Father has always been worried about the headquarters of the Palace of Driving the Heavens. I want to show these stubborn old fogies who cultivate their strength and let them know that the immeasurable sect is still the boss of the cloud region. Don't come straight to the Palace of Driving the Heavens whenever you come to the cloud region. So, I must get first place. Han Yuro rested her chin on her hand and looked at the distant moon scraping against the ink plate. She felt the fluctuations coming from Su-yi's room, one after another. This guy is still cultivating at this late hour? Should I go and discuss the details of the competition with him? The night was easy to let one's imagination run wild. Han Yuro pursed her cherry lips tightly. A few patches of red flew out from her snow-white skin. She stood up and then fell down. Han Yuro was in a dilemma. She went to Su-yi's door several times and went back to the center of the courtyard several times. Han Yuro scolded herself. Han Yuro, oh Han Yuro, when did you become so wishy-washy? You are a hot-blooded good daughter. It was really outrageous for her to be so coy. No wonder father always said you are immature. Huff. Han Yuro jumped on the spot and did some warm-up exercises. She took a few deep breaths and rushed to Su-yi's room. Her snow-white hand gently rested on the door. In the end, she decided to put it down. Her face twisted together as she knocked on her head lightly and stomped her feet. Ayaya, go back, go back. You are really a pig. Whoosh! At this moment, a rustling sound came from the forest in the distance. It startled the birds and the low roar of the savage beasts. The roar spread far and wide. Who is it? Han Yuro frowned. She immediately spread out her spiritual senses to sense the aura in the distance. After a while, she did not feel any movement. Han Yuro lifted her hand and rubbed the back of her head. She said doubtfully, "Did I sense wrongly? Sigh, I better go back and rest." After Han Yuro left, a beautiful green figure flashed out from the forest. Her cherry lips opened slightly and a voice that sounded like a warbler's song came out slowly. "Brat, you are living a happy life without me. Women can't stop." Whoosh! The beautiful figure in the forest sighed softly in the darkness. Then, she pointed at the void and the sparse figure disappeared. "Xiao Mu, let's go." Rumble. Then, a green flowing light flew away. The whole Lingyue Peak returned to its tranquility. It slowly passed by. Among the clouds condensed by spiritual qi, it looked like a fairy was dancing. At dawn, the morning sun shone its light on Gongke Lake. In the moment when the breeze blew, The fine pieces of gold in the lake were like little fish that rushed out of the lake. They rolled and surged, sparkling and shining. The overflowing golden light shone on the back of Lingyue Peak. The warm light accompanied the blue sky, ushering in another morning of Tianyu Chuan. Su-yi gently pushed open the door. After a night of meditation, his body's condition was already at its best. His meridians were filled with spiritual energy that surged like a dragon. Su-yi looked inside his soul. In his divine spiritual meridians, the second hidden latch of yin and yang was surging. It was very harmonious. The iron soulfish's body was constantly emitting dark and deep light. While he was so busy, the iron soulfish was sleeping soundly without any worries. He immediately shouted, "Time to get up! Don't bother me. I'm exhausted. Let me ask you, did you use your soul energy yesterday?" "Yes, why?" Su-yi couldn't help but ask. Yesterday's mountain guarding formation was a bit strange. It actually attracted your second hidden latch. Otherwise, even if you have a heaven-rank soul, how could you draw out such a powerful formation? The iron soulfish said in a deep voice. The second hidden latch was formed by the fusion of Su-yi's crimson water crystal and the iron soulfish. It was located in the divine spiritual meridians. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.